Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Ring Down Below, a Blades in the Dark actual play brought to you by the Mythic Gazetteer. I'm Eli Kurtz, your host and game master, and we are going to do some quick character and player introductions, and then we're going to jump right into this thing. So, first up, Derek.
Hello, I'm Derek, part of the Mythic Gazetteer. I will be playing Clank, the mechanic of the Electric Eek. Looking forward to seeing what mischief we can get into in Season 2.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Next, we have Baron.
Hello, everyone. I'm Baron. I run the YouTube channel RWD Gaming. I have retired my previous character, Jonathan Black, in lieu of the new associate to the Electric Eek, Ezel Valeris.
Yes, and we're very excited to meet her. Last but not least, Jeremy.
Hey everybody, my name is Jeremy. I have the YouTube channel, the Erasmus Expeditions. Tonight I am stepping back into the shoes of Street. Benjamin Overstreet. He goes by Benji. And yeah, I don't know that he's going to last a whole lot longer, but hopefully he will.
It's stunning that he's alive, and I really cannot wait to see how he finally falls. But
yeah, me too.
So we're going to get started with this thing, but I did want to take a moment and say that the Mythic Gazetteer is a part of the Indie Game Developer Network, a network of independent game developers, sure enough. And one of the other folks who's in the network is Misha Bushyager. She's one of the people in charge of New Agenda Publishing. They just recently published a really cool science fantasy fiction setting called Orun that is extremely weird in the ways that only science fiction can be. It's glorious stuff, and you should check it out. But we are here to play Ring Down Below. Like I said, a game using Blades in the Dark by John Harper. So let's jump into this thing. Welcome, listeners. KMGX and its affiliated stations are proud to present Gazetteer Radio's program, Ring Down Below, a tale of labor and struggle from the pitch-dark canals of Doskfall. This, our looming metropolis, known to sailors as North Hook, holds within its lightning barrier the potential for both relief and harm, hope and damnation. The dockers are learning that organizing into a union is the beginning of the fight, not the end. Powerful and mysterious forces in Duskfall work to drive a wedge between the dockers and the Leviathan Hunter ships, made easier by the noble hunter captain's disdain for up-jumped commoners like the dockers. Rumors of the Dockers' connection to certain acts of sabotage has drawn special and unwanted attention from the Bluecoats. How long can the crew of the Electric Eek lean on House Freud for support? And, of course, what's lurking beneath the surface with these rumors of a ring down below? We go now to the lurid streets of Silkshore, where a young woman begins a daring new enterprise. So, as usual, we find ourselves hovering over the waters of the Void Sea to the north beyond Duskfall. And we are moving rapidly over the surface of the water, and there are these big waves, so we're going up the wave and then back down, and the spray of the wave crest kind of washes over us. And then we see a dim light ahead that grows, and eventually it's the crackle of lightning walls that are 200 feet tall, protecting the city from the Deathlands and the Void Sea beyond. We go through this lightning wall, and we are headed toward the docks over the bay. We can see these massive Leviathan Hunter ships geared up and ready to go out. And beyond them, the dock warehouses and offices busy with workers. And instead of going to the docks, we take a right, and we start to move to a different section of the shore, an area of the town known as Silkshore, which is a neighborhood of many canals. It's the red light district. It's the arts district. It's a place for vagabonds and creatives of all types. And a few vagabonds in particular, the crew of the Electric Eek, have their lair located here in this place. It's been a couple of months since we last saw them, and they've made a lot of progress. They managed to successfully hand off the spirit-bottled soul of LaRose and plant it on a railjack to frame them for LaRose's murder, and the Bluecoats have come down harshly on the Railjacks as a result. A lot of sanctions being levied upon the entire organization, and a lot of street violence being visited upon the Railjacks who are foolish enough to go out into the streets. We also have Jonathan Black. After he paid off his spymaster Valeris and they were able to rise to an entire new tier of criminality, Jonathan decided to go into semi-retirement. he took a position as the lead organizer of the Dockers Union, and he's currently working on a project to whip up a crew and get their very own Leviathan hunter ship so they don't have to be at the beck and call of these noble hunter captains mentioned earlier. We also have the fearless mechanic of the crew, Clank, who has spent the past couple of months furiously developing a brand new technology, a stun glove that can be used to incapacitate people. It's bright, and it's limited in its use, but boy, do we hope it's effective. And last but not least, we have a new woman, someone who is unknown to us as of yet. And she is walking down the night black streets of Duskval, but there are these orange and yellow and pink lanterns that are hanging along the street to kind of lend a little more color to the world than we usually see. And she turns off down an alley and she walks down a ways until she gets to this rundown building. This is the home of the Electric Eek, but nobody can tell that from the outside. But she knows. Tell us, Baron, what does Ezel look like?
So, given my better than the norm upbringing here in Duskfall, I, for lack of a better phrase, I am fairly pretty. I am a brunette. I have very lithe features, not to the extent where I am, angular, I guess, but I'm athletic. I'm not very large, but certainly a capable woman, if anything.
Nice. What kind of clothing is she wearing? How is she moving down the street? What's this look like?
I'm wearing kind of a standard-esque business attire. Maybe not business. Just a lower upper end kind of just a dress with an overcoat, perhaps a hat to shroud my face from any onlookers who would see me enter this rundown establishment.
Nice. So she may not be a noble, but she's a smart dresser nonetheless.
Yes, absolutely.
Very cool. And so, yeah, Ezel, you come up and you give the particular knock on the door to signify that you're friendly. And inside, we have two figures who are busily preparing for a night at a brand new gambling hall. Clank, what do you do to prepare yourself to go gambling for an evening?
Well, before he does that, he's quickly writing down a map of the inside of their hideout, putting little X's on little spots on the ground, so that he knows not to step there. And he writes Umbra on it so that he can give that to her when she comes. But after that, he puts on his cleanest shirt, which means it's covered in grease. He kind of packs all of his fine tinkering tools with him, because you never know when you need to tinker with some gambling device. He just gets kind of prepared. He takes some of the grease from his shirt, puts it in his hair, puts it back, makes it real nice. Does a little curlicue, Clark Kent curlicue and all.
Mm-hmm.
Finds a dead flower, puts it in his lapel. He's ready, dressed to the tens.
Very nice. Wow, spared no expense. And Benji, this gambling hall is the brand new and totally legitimate establishment owned and operated by your friend Salia and his business partner Davian Spall. So what are you doing as you get ready for this night at the gambling hall?
I imagine that Benji is also very well dressed. It's probably not the latest. No, actually, I'm doing fairly well as far as money goes. So it's actually probably some of the latest fashion, whatever that would be in Duskval.
Sure.
And I think it's definitely like some kind of suit with tails, and probably a top hat kind of equivalent.
Cool. Yeah.
I would say
nice.
Clank really likes his tails, and so finds some like animal tails to nail onto the back of his coat.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. That sounds very on brand too. So you guys are kind of bustling around the lair here, and you hear this knock on the door.
I think.
That must be her. How do I look? And he stands up.
Have we met her before?
Yes, yeah. She was actually the one who facilitated the handoff of coin to Valeris to go up in tier 2 months ago. And I don't know how much you've interacted since then, but there's been at least a little bit. You know each other's names anyway.
I would have to say that any kind of interaction thus far, Jonathan was certainly a intermediary. So this may be
uncle,
perhaps. Right? Valeris is my father. Jonathan is more or less a godfather figure to me.
Okay, cool.
So this would probably be the first time that I have interacted with you guys without him here.
Which is why I have to give her a map of the booby traps, because Jonathan is not there to get her through.
Right.
Of course.
So yeah, he'll Jonathan Black, not Jonathan Black, Benji will make his way through the lair, kind of sighing because it takes so damn long to step around all of these stupid tripwires and booby traps. So he calls out, "One moment, almost there." Ah, there we are. And he kind of opens the door up wide.
Benji, you are looking quite dashing today, I must say. The top hat suits you well.
Thank you, Miss Valeris. Please, will you come on in? And he kind
Please,
of bows and takes off his
Miss
hat.
Valeris is my mother. The easel is quite all right.
Very well. Come in, please.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, my Clank. I love the tales.
Watch your step.
Oh.
You don't. Well, I'll let Clank explain it.
Clink gets tongue-tied, and he hands out this piece of paper to her.
Clank, you can say hello.
Oh. Hi.
Hello. And what is this?
Don't step on the X's.
Very well. All right.
He takes a little getting used to, but he's very handy.
I don't know. I have to say, he's quite charming.
You'd be surprised. And then he kind of realizes that he's speaking in front of a proper young woman, and then he kind of just, yes, of course.
I just realized this has suddenly become a very funny group. It used to be an engineer and a dock man and a noble, and now it's basically 2 nobles and an engineer.
I try not to let my money dictate my personality.
Well, maybe you'll fit in then.
I might have more personality if I had more money.
Well, perhaps tonight is the night for you, for I believe the occasion calls for some gambling. Right, Benji?
Indeed. Yes, I think it should be quite the evening.
I'm ready for an explosive one.
No, Clank. It's just gambling. It's just.
He doesn't mean
Yes.
Oh.
He does.
Oh dear.
Could we maybe leave them here?
What here?
The explosions.
Which ones?
All of them, preferably.
And he starts taking stuff out of pockets, setting it down, scowling. And he comes back and stands by you and looks innocent.
That's all of them.
Appearing to be innocent and being innocent seem to be totally different things as far as I'm concerned.
He sighs and goes back and takes his boot off and dumps out one more thing.
And as you all are having this conversation, it's interesting because you're also moving around and you're slowly picking up different items and you're just kind of quietly pocketing them on your person because you realize that you've got business to accomplish at this gambling hall tonight. and you're kind of indulging the play of Clank always carrying way too much. But you all know that you are supposed to be carrying a little bit, because it's not strictly pleasure tonight. And so this this conversation goes on for a little while. And then we pull away from the hideout. We come out the door. And just as we're about to move up and see the skyline of the city underneath us, we hear this bang! And then Clank. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Clank has actually like pulled me back as I like tripped something that would have probably killed me or maimed me seriously.
Sorry, forgot to put that one on the paper.
I have to say, it's quite impressive.
And so we move across the skyline, and then we finally get to the gambling hall. And this is not a super well-off gambling hall. It's a brand new establishment. It's the first legitimate business endeavor by Salian Spall. But, you know, it's a good working man's gambling hall. It's respectable. And you come inside, and you've got pretty typical clientele. Very few dockers. Most of the dockers, this is above their station. But, you know, Salian Spall invited you for this big grand opening event, and you would have been impolite to say no. So you go there. And tell me, Ezel, what's one quality of this gambling hall that sticks out to you? What kind of games are they playing, or what kind of decor do they have, or something?
I want to say that there's like some form of like craps, but it's like a very obviously like to tone of Duskfall, like it's red and black, but like the dice are like grotesque finger bones or something. Like this is like a very they made this horrific game into something. We're gonna put this in a gambling hall. So it's like, okay, maybe this shouldn't be here. We'll see how it goes.
All right, sounds good. Sounds very good. And Benji, what about you?
So I don't know if this is too fancy or not, but I think there is a massive gilded birdcage kind of in the center of the majority of this space, and it's elevated, and it's actually a stage. There's a girl inside of it who is singing into kind of one of those old microphones, you know, that's kind of the big, huge fist size.
Yeah.
And yeah, she stands there and just sings like crooning songs, probably even like renditions of like sea shanties and stuff that have been around for a long, long time.
Yeah, but like made sultry.
But yeah, exactly.
Through adaptation. I love that. Yeah. I love that. And Clank, what about you? What sticks out to you about this place?
They have feathered crab fighting.
Feathered crab fighting. Amazing. How big are feathered crabs?
I mean, they vary in size. Once they get up about 50 years old, they get about like 2 feet wide.
Oh my
god. But I mean, usually the fighters they use are about 5 to 10 years old, and so they're maybe a foot wide at the carapace. They've got one big claw, one small claw.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, so there's this fierce battle being played out in I'm going to say in a back room, because it would interfere too much, the hooting and hollering with the crooner. So she's got to have her own space for that.
Well, I mean, you say that, but crabs are pretty quiet.
Well, but the people around them cheer them on.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so you're heading in here, and one thing that really sticks out to you is that Tuto is at one of these kind of gambling tables that Ezel has noted. And Tuto looks really out of place here. First of all, he's super morose. He just looks like he's sad. And second of all, he's got way too many chips in front of him. There's no reason why he should be betting this much money for anything. And this is the first thing that sticks out to you in this place.
Who was it that noticed that?
Everybody did. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I think I actually have like my arm in like I'm being escorted by Benji, and I kind of whispered to the side. Maybe actually, I take that back. I have both of you. I'm in the middle.
Very nice.
You are escorting me through the entrance hall here, and I kind of lean over to Benji. I say, that fellow who looks a lot like our friend Crank here seems to be quite well off.
Yeah, it's his name's Tuto. He's done some work for us in the past. He's part of the Darkos. Actually, give me a moment, would you? And he kind of taps her arm and starts heading that direction.
Clank, shall we go get a drink?
Sure, I think they have good grog here.
Oh, grog, yes, excellent.
So you two move off to the bar while Benji goes over to Tuto, and Tuto sees you and he's like, "Oh, fancy shoes."
The man who needs no shoes. Tuto, how are you?
Well, bad. Real bad.
What seems to be the issue? He almost like puts himself between like the dealer and Tuto, almost to kind of like cut off in an interaction.
Yeah, and it's good because Tuto is actually grabbing for some chips just then, and he reaches and then I'm just real stressed out. Fancy shoes. I mean, we're trying to negotiate for wages from the Ministry of Preservation, and I just it's not going well. It's really tough.
Well, it seems to be going rather well at the moment, and he kind of gestures all of the chips in front of him.
You kidding? This is my life savings. I'm wasting this because I feel so miserable.
Tuto, surely there's somewhere better for you to spend your money? Far less of it than this?
Oh, I'm never going to have any money again at this rate, so what does it matter if I just spend it all here? I can just live in the alleys and eat those nasty spiders. And
you know that we'll never let that happen to you, Tuto. Where's Jonathan? Is he not taking care of you?
Well, he's busy all the time. I mean, it takes a lot to negotiate. That's what he says anyway. I don't know. I've never negotiated in my life. Is that how you say it? Negotiate?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That is correct. You're much smarter than you give yourself credit for, Tuto.
Well, thanks.
But you're also smarter than this.
What? Ugh, I guess you're right. Okay, I'm not gambling after all. I'm taking all my chips. And you see the gambling, like the dealer. He's pissed at you all of a sudden. He's like, excuse me, man. What the hell do you think you're doing?
I know this gentleman, and I will not have you rob him.
Yeah, he's a free man, and he can gamble if he wants to. What's the problem?
I suggest that you take 2 steps back. And his facial expression completely goes, like, dark towards this man.
Okay. I feel like this might be an action to affect him.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Yeah, Benji's not all sunshine and rainbows.
I like it. He's got those traumas.
Yeah, just a few.
All right.
So I don't know, sway? It says charm, logic, deception, disguise, or bluff. But it also says change attitudes or behavior with manipulation or seduction.
I mean, command is threaten.
Yeah, I think command would be the natural choice for sure.
Yes, I can see that. Ugh. All right.
Okay, so if you want to do command, I mean, you could try and do sway with that sort of attitude, just manipulating him or bluffing him into thinking that you're some sort of like, well, you kind of are a maniac, though. Yeah, I think command then, if you're comfortable using that.
Yeah, it's not the best, but
we'll give it a try.
We'll go for it. All right. Position.
Position in effect, let's say it's a controlled position. This is a party atmosphere, and this guy's only just become aware of your existence. And you're pretty good at... You're pretty... Like, your whole thing is kind of your charisma, so I think this would be great. Controlled and great.
Okay. Control, great. No bonus dice. And a 3.
A 3? Okay. Well, it's not great. So he says, "Excuse me, but if you don't improve your attitude, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave." And he looks over toward the door, and he makes eye contact with a couple of big, mean-looking bouncers.
It's really not worth it. It's fine. He'll pull out a little bit of money,
Ah, okay.
coin, or maybe even chips if they've already cashed in.
Sure. Yeah, there's time for
Chips. He'll just kind of, toss a couple out, like a double amount of a tip.
that. Okay, that sounds good. Cool. So yeah, you kind of bluff him or bribe him or whatever away, and he's like, "Well, just maybe steer clear of this table for the rest of the night, okay? I can't guarantee your odds are going to be any good."
Not a problem.
And
I'd say above their conversation, they can hear Clink explaining to Umbra that this place could be a lot more secure if you rig that cage to fall right there. I could do that in one switch.
Well, I'm quite certain you could, my dear. Perhaps being able to elevate the cage for the sake of raising it so more people could see, perhaps. Less trappy, more...
I don't know how that makes it safer.
I certainly don't know either, I suppose. Benji, what seems to be going on over here?
Well, I think Tuto was just leaving.
oh, well, will you buy me a drink?
I think Isla will hand him her grog.
Okay.
And she has taken a sip of him, oh, my dear, here, take mine.
Oh, well, are you sure?
I am quite certain.
All right.
Clink turns to Tuto and says, "Hey, can I get a little loan?"
A loan? I don't have any money. I just got all these chips. It's my whole life savings.
Oh, well, I'll take those then.
No,
but
it's my whole
Clank.
life savings.
What? Well, then you got them there. There's feathered crabs in the back.
Hey, you know what? That last sandwich was kind of bland. I don't think you're using the right condiments on there.
Well, tell me what you want.
I told you I want a scorpion fly sandwich with the paste all over it, and then I want you to just toast it, but then put it in the fridge.
Okay, I already made your week's allotment of them. They're in the lair.
Well, all I'm saying is that if all of them have that nasty, you didn't get the paste all over it like I like, then I'm not going to give you any of my life savings, not even if it's chips.
Okay, and the paste is what now? It's 2 part jellyfish slime and 1 part what?
Scorpion fly grindings.
Okay. Okay, I can do that.
Tuto looks over at Ezel and he's like, "It's not hard."
Certainly not, especially with scorpion fly. A delicacy, really. As she kind of oh,
Yeah, she's right. She's right. He just kind of saying that to nobody, almost to himself. He's like, "Well, okay, this grog is really good. Hey, listen. We're kind of in trouble over in the docks,
Yes, it sounded like it.
and you see, we've got those folks who the propagandists, right? The ones that you got. You remember them."
Yes.
Oh yeah, those little shits.
You see, that's funny. You see, they've been working for us on and off, but they've been trying to get into Leviathan Hunter ships, and they've been trying to get into the Ministry of Preservation and just get some information for us. But they've been quiet recently. Have you heard from them?
Clank cracks his knuckles and said, "I haven't, What they're due a talking to.
Well, I think I don't know if you can get him to talk to us again. Maybe we can make some progress with this wage negotiation going on.
Hey, very good. You said it twice now.
I did. Good for me. And he takes another drink. Anyway, that's my life right now. What about you guys? Gal, of course.
Please. The formalities are necessary. We're here to have a good time. And like I'll grab the arm of like this waitress, kind of wearing some sort of dress plumed in like crab feathers.
Nice.
A wine, please. Go ahead.
Oh, sure, dear. Sure, I'll just get that for you right away. Did you want the mushroom wine, or did you want some of the berry wine that's from the Radiant Farms?
Mushroom's fine, thank you.
Okay, I'll have it right out. So she's gonna go out.
Clank then proceeds to tell Umbra of this one time where he saw a large naked man in a fountain of mushroom wine.
Oh, Clank, you'll have to tell me about it later. Perhaps after a game?
Tuto's like, hey, you want to play a game? I got my whole life savings right here. I could spend some of it.
Perhaps you shouldn't play.
Shouldn't play? Well, that's what Benji said, but I don't like that.
Gambling is fun when your life savings aren't on the table, dear.
Oh, is that how it works?
Usually, yes.
Well, all right. I guess I'll just take this 3 coin elsewhere then.
You should.
So he starts to turn around, and Benji, as he does, and he starts to move toward the exit, you notice that there are some bluecoats walking into the gambling hall. And you see Salya coming from the back room and walking up to the front to meet them. And Salya happens to pass by you in that moment.
Everything okay?
Oh, yes, my friend. Do not worry. You know, the cost of doing business, as they say. Yes, well, excuse me. I cannot keep them waiting. And he kind of moves away. Izel, you notice that one of these bluecoats is none other than your old pal, Officer Darmit.
Oh, Benji, you see that scarred fellow there?
Yes.
He is a very good friend of mine, Officer Darmo.
Oh, you're friends with the Bluecoats.
It's best to have friends everywhere. At least on the surface, at least. At least on the surface, at least.
I see. Well, I guess it's maybe it's not a good idea for us to go say hello just yet.
But not, perhaps not say hello, but simply be aware of their presence.
Oh, I certainly see them.
I would lean in close to you, Benji. The plan is still on.
Clank says, I hate bluecoats.
Yes, and I hate grog, it would seem. But alas, a game, please. And I would sit down with a few chips to play some craps.
Very nice. Okay. Do either of the other players want to join Izel at the craps table?
Clank pulls his pockets out and reveals he has no money.
So he's relying on the charity of other people, I suppose.
The party that we're supposed to be at, is this it?
Yeah, this is it.
The
Yeah.
main floor?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like a crowd that's bustling, and there's a sort of balcony that goes up to private offices and stuff, but it's not like there's a place where you can go and hang out up there.
Okay, excellent. Then yeah, Benji he'll join in.
Cool. All right.
People then wander around and inspect like the build quality of the building, seeing which steps squeak, seeing if there's any hollow walls.
Sure. Yeah, as you're walking around, you're like, investigating things, but then you see a very pretty young woman across the gambling hall. She's got very nice clothing on. Looks like, if she's noble, it wouldn't surprise you. High collared dress here with a big fat ruby brooch on it and hair done up pretty nice and striking features for sure.
Like where is she? Like across the room?
Yeah, through a small crowd.
Clink. I mean, he doesn't go straight to her, but he wanders that way, still checking the walls and all that. And when he gets up to her, he just asks her bluntly, "If you're cold," or he doesn't ask her. He tells her, "If you're cold, you can go by the fire over there."
What a charming man you are. I don't believe we've met.
No.
Very well. Well, I'm not cold, so I don't think I need to go to the fire, thank you.
Then why is your collar so high?
What a delightful boy you are. Tell you what. Why don't you just run along, all right? You strange little man.
I think there's too many people in here to run, but it looks like a pretty good crowd, though.
Yes, I suppose so. Quite a nice crowd. For the lower quarters, of course.
Well, where are you from?
Oh, I'm from Brightstone, of course, the most well-to-do neighborhood in the city.
Oh, do you know Mix Freud?
Oh yes, Addy. Addy is quite a character.
Yeah, Addie and me at Palace.
Are they? Well, interesting. Tell me more about your relationship with this Addy. And as you start to do that, we're going to go over to the gambling table. Now, Benji, is this the same craps table that the guy was at earlier, that Tuto was at earlier?
No.
Okay.
I think we probably started going, maybe Umbra started heading that direction, and Benji kind of like course corrected. No. There's a bunch, there's 2 open seats over here.
Of course.
Very well.
So, you sit down at this other gambling table, and let's see here. I think what we would do is just a fortune roll to determine how well you do. And a fortune roll is according to your tier, so we've got 2 dice for each of you to roll. And I think whoever gets higher here will be the winner of this first round. Ooh, Isel.
Let's get those out of the way now.
Oh, jeez. You tied. So actually the case is that nobody won. Somebody else. So you both lost just a little bit of money. I don't think you need to subtract like a full coin for it, but
Why is my
Well,
fortune,
you-
House one.
why
but you
is
see-
my fortune 0 dice? Where is that?
oh, you're right. Well, it should have been 2 dice. So we can just say that you got a 3. But still, that's not enough to actually win, so...
No.
You see, Benji, from what I hear, most games are hard to increase your chances of winning. Perhaps we can find a... I want to say blackjack, but there's probably a cooler name for blackjack than blackjack. Blackjack. No, let's not call it railjack. That makes them sound cool.
You know what, though? It's going to be called Railjack.
Damn it, Benji. Perhaps we could find a railjack table.
Yes, I suspect that maybe we're not getting a fair shake at this table. And he kind of eyes the guy that's not that far.
Right, the other craps
other
table guy. My father absolutely adored railjack, and he taught me a thing or two about paying attention to what's happening in the game.
Well, if your father's the one who taught you how to play, I'm not sure that I necessarily want to sit at the table with you.
Oh, Benji, I would never.
All right, so here's what I think about that. You can do another fortune roll, 2 dice, and Izel, you could push yourself to gain an additional die. That makes sense. You could assist Benji, and he could gain an additional die.
think I would probably assist rather than flaunt my my talent. I guess.
You're a little more subtle than that or something.
Yeah. I'm gonna try and aid Benji rather than try to win.
Cool. So you gain 1 stress, and Benji, you get an additional die. So you'll roll 3, and Izel will roll 2. Whew. All right. It worked. It worked. So I think in return for that, you get like a fat pile of money, and I won't give you like a specific coin amount now. We'll just factor that in whenever the score is done at the end of the time. So you get a fat wad of cash from this. It's pretty nice.
Oh, my Benji, look at you.
Yeah, Benji calls Clank over whenever he's near him again. Clank, come here. Come here.
So Clank is just telling this lady, and that's how Addie has the most safe mansion in all of Duskfall.
Do I recognize this person?
So yeah, you look over and you do see that good old Clank is talking to someone that you know, Izel, and Clank, the woman that you're talking to, laughs and is like, "Oh, what a delightful little prankster you are! I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name earlier."
Clank.
Clank. Oh, how charming! I'm Lady Rosalind Kellis. Wonderful to meet you.
Clank,
Nice to meet you, lady.
don't shake hands with a leech fish.
Oh.
It's not good for your health.
Oh, hello, Valeris.
Rosalind
How are you?
was fine until someone dragged you in.
You needn't worry, of course. I am.
Oh, you're leaving?
Oh no, I'm just so far above your station that it won't matter.
I didn't realize you could get that high with your head up your ass.
This feels like a roll to affect her somehow.
What do you got?
Looking back and forth from each of them, and he's just like he was excited to meet this lady, but now his like smile is just
It
down
just
the
got
way.
hot in here. This is probably a consort, since she's my rival.
Consort could make sense to me, sort of drawing upon your background or whatever.
All right. Position is just risky.
Yeah, risky and standard, I think, position effect-wise.
Good lord. Okay, I guess I'm gonna leave.
That's unfortunate. So you kind of try to come back after that, but you stumble. And Rosalind's like, "Oh, it's so charming to see you as always, Valeris. Well, I'm going to go, I think, watch these feathered crab fights. Do indulge yourself with whatever you'd like. Of course, whatever is within your means, I suppose." And then
I'm
she
sure
moves
I
off.
just finished my glass of wine.
So she moves off. And then Benji, as this happens, you look over and you see that Salia is wrapping up with the Bluecoats and starts to move back toward the office and gives you a meaningful glance.
I think Benji had been calling Clank over, and he sees this, and it completely diverts his attention away from the conversation he was about to have with, I said Benji, but Clank. And as he is calling Clank over, he's gonna like reach in and just like pull 2 stacks of chips out of like the the little holder or whatever it's got, and kind of put them in his jacket pockets. And he says he just kind of slides the rest of the tray towards Clank. Here, why don't you take over? He's gonna stand up and move to follow Salia.
Okay.
And he
Clank-
looks over
Clank-
to catch.
oh, I was real quick. Clink's gonna take that and then burst into like a rousing Union song with like going to Local 543.
Oddly enough, nobody joins up with you because Two Toe's gone and nobody else is a docker. So you ring out in like song for a little while, and maybe you get all the way through it. I don't know, but regardless, people mostly either ignore you or stare at you in silence. Yeah, so Benji, you move off to kind of surreptitiously make your way to Salia's office.
Yeah, on his way, he's gonna kind of pass that knowing glance in the direction of Umbra.
Okay.
So draining my cup of mushroom wine, I think I take my leave of the railjack table and look for a bathroom or not a closet, but perhaps a wait staff room.
Okay, yeah, someplace that's kind of away from prying eyes.
Yes.
Cool. All right, yeah. So you managed to find that toward the back of the gambling hall. There's a kitchen area, and the kitchen is reached by walking down a hallway that's also got kind of like a break room set up toward the back.
So I'm gonna sneak in to this room and change my clothes.
Okay, so let's have a prowl back there then. This is going to be risky standard.
Ugh, let's see how bad I fail this one.
I mean, this kind of has to be the coat check room, right?
Right. Yes, yeah. Certainly, right?
4's not bad.
Okay, yeah, 4's pretty good. Yeah, so, and I think you're right, Benji. I don't think it's like a break room in the back of the gambling hall. I think this is the coat check room toward the beginning. So you go in trying to, on the premise of getting your coat. And I think across the room, Rosalind notices that you walk in there. But otherwise, you manage to make it in there, and this is a complication as a result of a risky result of 4 or 5. So if you want to, you can resist this.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and resist it.
Okay, so you rolled prowl, so that'll be prowess as a resistance, and let's see what you got.
5.
5. Okay, cool. So you only take 1 stress from managing to you catch Rosalind's eye. And I think there's a moment where you kind of hang back and just chill out for a little while, and then you wait till her attention's gone and you disappear into the coat check room.
Actually, Clank walked back with her to see the feathered crab fights and makes a very large distraction.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was a nice assist, Clank.
I don't think my eyes could have rolled any harder.
So, Benji, you get upstairs and you go to the office of Salya and Spall. And it's a nice little office. It's got 2 really good-looking, heavy wooden desks. It's got a couch and some chairs set up. It's got a little wet bar in the corner and everything. And there are some people, some investors, some entertainers. The entourage are hanging out up there. Probably only about 4 or 5 people total. And Salya is clearly upset at his desk, and he says, those bastards think they can squeeze us for all we own. Is it not ridiculous? I hate this city.
It's not the city, Salya. There are parts of the city for sure, but it's just the Bluecoats. That's what they do.
I hate them so much. Did you bring your men tonight?
Yes, we're here.
Are they ready to act?
Of course. We just need to know what to do. And how much compensation we're talking. He kind of eyes the entourage a little bit nervously.
Of course. Well, we have discussed the terms before, but let's go over them again, shall we? And at this point, I want to switch into an engagement roll. And we can kind of discover the facts as we go.
Nice. Cool.
Okay, so...
2 boys, let's get it.
Yeah. So first of all, we have to do the plan. There are 6 different plans as usual, and each one has a missing detail. So do you guys want to make this score? Well, let's review the facts that we know. We know that the Bluecoats are here, and they're shaking down the gambling hall operators. We know that Rosalind is here. We know that Tuto showed up because he was complaining about the informants that the Dockers have been relying on going silent. Obviously, Salya has a particular plan for you in mind, but maybe you're not trying to do him a solid right now. Maybe you have some other purpose in mind, and you're trying to figure out a way to delay or something, right? So regardless of what the details are, is this plan going to be an assault, a deception, a stealth, an occult, a social, or a transport plan?
Stealth sounds like it would be what we want.
Mm-hmm. Trespass unseen details the point of infiltration, and I guess it's worth discussing in the when you suggest what the plan is. What do you also imagine the general thing that you're trying to do is? So stealth to what end?
Well, I don't know what Stalia wants us to do.
I would like to throw out transport,
Okay.
perhaps to either escort a person or package out of
Mm.
here. And like the blue coats being here is our like means to um, you know, do this without them be like, oh, uh, that couldn't have. They were here. It's like, oh, well, blue coats are here. How could we? How could we have done that if you were here?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like that idea. What sort of other things do people have in mind? Anything? With stealth, Derek, like what do you imagine we'll be doing with stealth?
I don't know. I'm confused what we're trying to do. So
That's the thing. Like basically I'm saying what is it that you want to do? You know that the bluecoats are shaking down the gambling hall, you know that the informants have gone silent, and these are two
then,
they're definitely separate actions, but you can see what you can do to pursue either
what I
one.
want to do then, and we don't have to do this, but I want to find out where our informants are, and if we have to maybe be stealthy to do that, so that the bluecoats don't know what's going on. But I like that transport idea. I mean, the idea is to keep them from shaking down Salia. Um, or maybe we could try to get some dirt on these bluecoats so that they leave him alone.
Okay.
And that would be a stealthy thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we've got two ideas about addressing the bluecoats. We've got one idea about addressing the informants. Benji, what sort of thoughts do you have?
I mean, any opportunity that Benji has for screwing the bluecoats over, that's certainly his priority.
Sure.
Especially if it's going to help Salia. Salia's an old friend. He's helped Benji out a lot. So whatever he can do for Salia, he's probably also going to consider kind of very important.
Nice. And sure. So kind of leaning toward maybe the work for Salia then. And let me add this to the equation too. With either one of these, you could seize a claim on the city, and if you pursue the informants, then you can do the informants claim, which gives you +1 die to gathering information for scores. If you do the help with Salia, then you could seize the gambling den claim, and that means that during downtime, you roll however many dice you have for your tier, and then you subtract the heat that you have, and that's how much coin you get for like passive revenue coming in from the gambling den.
So just to tie into that, perhaps we are his money transport. The bluecoats have come to shake him down, but we have the package of excess money or
the
money that
funds
is
that he's not putting on the books.
exactly. Then we are to get it out during the shakedown.
Yeah. Okay.
I like that. And that works for transport.
And
Cool.
therefore, going into the future, it's like every time Salia needs us to extricate some money, we get a little bit on the side.
Yeah, that could work. I will say also that the gambling den is 1-2 segments away from the core lair section on the map, and so it'll be a little more challenging than if you were to pursue the informants thing. But it sounds like, you guys are daring and reckless, so and philanthropic actually. All three of those line up with your priorities pretty well.
I am also unstable.
Yeah, that's also very true.
Rosalind being here just makes me want to stick it to them all that much harder.
All right.
Is she associated with them somehow?
Not necessarily.
Too bad.
Okay, so you're thinking that what you want to do then is a transport score in Silkshore to seize a gambling den claim? That sound enticing?
Sounds intense.
All right. And the detail we have to determine for a transport plan is the route and the means. So what route are you going to take to extricate this money and or Salia, and what means are you using?
Means I want Clegg to cause a distraction, because I feel like I could do that pretty well.
Sure.
I mean,
It's almost imperative in the first episode.
we've got to use the Eek and the canals, right?
Also a very good point. I'm sure we can
Also
combine
imperative.
those two.
Well, Benji, you are our getaway driver, if you will.
I certainly know the canals of the city.
And I think you and I maybe were talking about this at the table. And like at some point when you were leaving to go talk to Salia, I had like put on a pair of gloves or something. Because I think I am probably the one that's going to get the money out of here.
Cool. Cool. Okay, so we have the transport. It's going to be Ezel will transport. Ezel will carry the money away. And
For better or worse.
Yeah, and we need to know the route that she's going to take as well.
I'm actually going to go out onto the roof to leave via the rooftops.
Nice. Illegitimate money over the rooftops. Okay, cool. So I think we have our image of what we're going to do now, and now we should do our engagement roll. So somebody can pull this up. You start off with 1 die for sheer luck, of course. You get +1 die for each major advantage. Do you guys have any ideas about major advantages in terms of maybe allied assistance, in terms of special preparation?
I would say Salia is going to help us how he can, and it's his building. So I would think he would give us a pretty good layout of his building.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think that I knew Officer Darmo was going to be here. And I have been extremely flirtatious, at least in appearance, with both Clank and Benji while I could see him watching to throw him off his game.
Okay, cool. So and Officer Darmo is your ally, not your rival, right?
Correct. And
Okay.
I'm not trying to necessarily make him mad as I am jealous.
Sure. Okay. So if you invoke your ally, then it gives you an advantage. So throwing off Officer Darmo in that way is definitely a way to gain a die. And likewise, I think Clank is absolutely right. Salia would lend help, and so that can be another die. So we're at 3 so far. Each major disadvantage gets -1 die. So
Clank.
well, Clank. What I was thinking is that the Bluecoats are a tier higher than you. And they're 2 tiers higher than Salia and Spall. They're only tier 1 individuals. And so I'm thinking that that's worth -1 die. And then also Rosalind Kellis is here, and that's certainly going to throw a wrench in Ezel's plans.
But she is enamored with Clank now.
Well, yeah, but maybe that's not as good as you think it is. So, so I think that's -1 die too. So we're back to just the 1 die. Does anybody have any suggestions about other things that might boost you? I'm trying to think about maybe like your items, if you have any items that are particularly fine quality or something.
Okay, here we go. My special ability, Infiltrator. I'm not affected by quality or tier when I bypass security measures.
Ah, okay.
So perhaps the fact that the Bluecoats are here, maybe not have the negative effect that it would normally.
For sure.
Okay, so that, and I'm a saboteur, so I can wreck things very quietly and hidden from casual inspection. So I might be able to make a path that is easy for Umbra to get to that is unnoticed and quiet.
For sure. Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential in that. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to say you can get 1 die for the combination of those 2 things. So we're up to 2 dice then. And now we can roll and we can figure out what our starting position will be. 6? Woohoo! Okay. So you are in a controlled position when the action starts, and you've actually already bypassed the first obstacle. But at this point, I want to take a quick break and refresh drinks, go to the bathroom, that sort of thing. So for those of you watching so far, thanks so much for tuning in, and we will be back in just a second. So keep your eyes on the canals, because we are on the prowl. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Blades in the Dark, Ring Down Below. I'm your host, Eli Kurtz, and your Game Master, and we are ready to get back into this. So, when we last left our scoundrels, we had infiltrated, or, well, we had attended this gambling hall grand opening for Salia and Spall. We found out that the Bluecoats are here to shake them down. Apparently they know about some ill-gotten gains that are being stored in the gambling hall, and they have come to claim it. However, our scoundrels have decided that they have made an agreement with Salia to safely transport these ill-gotten gains out of the gambling hall so that the Bluecoats find nothing, and Salia and Spall can remain legitimate. This would have been fine, but Lady Rosalind Kellis was there at the gambling hall opening. It just so happens that Rosalind Kellis is the rival of one Izel Valeris. So how is this going to play out? Well, we'll just have to find out, won't we? So here we are in the gambling hall. We have started in a controlled position, and we have bypassed the first obstacle. I think the first obstacle...
Oh, we have to do load.
Oh, yes, we do. Very good point. Very good point. Well done. Okay, so to do load, you just check whatever box you want to for how much you want to carry.
Clank is carrying a normal load this evening.
Normal for Clank or normal?
Just a normal. I mean, he had to put tails on, so he didn't have room for that extra thing.
Yeah, I have the impression with kind of the way we were discussing things that Benji would have gone with a light load this time around.
Cool.
For this evening.
And remember, everybody has 2 free load of tools or gear because of the thief rigging from the crew playbook. So, this first obstacle, I think, was actually getting your hands on the money. So, Izel, tell us how you made it back from the coat check in the front to the office in the back in your disguise without being noticed. And what is your lurk outfit? What does it look like once you've changed out of this party clothing? I think you're muted. Might have microphone troubles.
While Umbra is getting changed, Clank is regaling Lady Rosalind about the history of Akarosi feathered crabs. You know, he used to raise them as a child. The fancy version, they had red feathers. It probably took at least 20 crabs to make those fringes on her sleeves.
Oh, amazing. And oh, yes, that's quite wonderful news. I love exploiting animals. This is delightful. Benji, or Baron, still can't hear you, man. Too. Maybe refresh your audio video in the settings.
Is that helping?
Yeah, can hear you now. You're quiet, though.
All I would like to say is, in reference to the Dick Karma, you're speaking to Rosalind. Yeah. I don't know what's going on, why I'm quiet.
You got a little louder just now.
Yeah, I'm going to have to eat my microphone.
Oh, exciting. But you sound great now.
In reference to the Brick Charmer, if you're speaking to Rosalind, it's aptly named. So, I snuck back. I didn't necessarily sneak. I think this is mildly prepared, at least somewhat to the staff of the operation. I snuck in. I was handed my coat, and it's kind of like a two-sided thing. But there is some sort of maybe occult or subterfuge-esque essence to it. When I flip it out and put it on, it like, rather than being like a more billowy kind of fancy overcoat, this turns into like a very form-fitting to my person, kind of fastens the loose ends, and almost like a Zelda cheek kind of transformation. I become much more burglar.
Yeah, okay. You've seen those articles or those graphics about how to gird your loins.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So though I would still remain petite, I definitely become a little bit more androgynous.
Very cool. All right, cool. So you get kind of sleeked down like that, and you manage to make your way back to the office. where Benji is waiting for you with Salia and Spall and their entourage. Salia says, yes, this is your new associate, yes?
Yes, Solia. This is Izel.
I guess, to be honest, I think this is when I would be referred to as Umbra.
Oh, yes, okay. This is Umbra.
Ambra, quite a fetching name. Yes, well, we have the parcel here, if you will, and he opens up a case, and there is like a belt system. It's like rigging, but there are silver bars that are lining the rigging, both up over the shoulders and around the waist. It's like, if you have a cloak or a coat, you might want to wear this underneath, yes? Keep a low profile.
Removing my there's a name for it, hold on. Removing my fine shadow cloak, I do return to my usual appearance for the most part. Of course, it should be held quite snugly to my person with my cloak in tow.
Very good, very good. All right, well, be on your way. The blue coat should be up in just a moment.
But of course.
So, Clank, you are downstairs, and I imagine it's your job to keep an eye on the blue coats, but you're having a really difficult time with Lady Rosalind right there next to you. And so she every time you start to pull your attention away from her, she's like, "Oh no, please no! Look here! This feathered crab right here. Tell me about this one. What's its story? Who is this crab, and why is it such a contender here in the arena?"
Well, that's Frank.
Frank, you say? Oh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Always-
See, he's got a big claw.
always the monosyllab, aren't you, Clank?
Say again.
You, never mind. I figured it might go over your head. Tell me, what do you think is most fetching about Frank down here? Do you think we should place money on him?
No, I wouldn't on him.
Not on him? Who would you place money on, eh?
Then he kind of looks around, and I mean, he's not looking at the crabs anymore.
Right. Yeah, you start to look around and you realize you've lost track of the blue coats.
Yeah, you can go ahead and bet on Frank here. I guess.
You wound me. You would abandon me right here just before a game begins.
Well, I gotta go pee.
Ah, how vulgar. Please, get out of my sight until you've improved your manners.
And he just leaves.
Okay. So you've got to locate these blue coats again because you're looking for them.
In that case, I would like to create a situation that would draw them to it. And I want to create a situation that is totally under control. Trust me, it's totally under control. But that cage that is in the middle of the room is going to drop a couple of feet.
So you, maybe this is a flashback to when you actually did already rig that up with the switch.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Now, I would imagine that Salia knows you by reputation, and I would imagine that Benji has spent no small amount of time complaining about all the booby traps that are around his old family property. And so I don't think Salia is going to be particularly friendly to you installing this. I think this is going to be at least a one stress flashback for you to actually be able to do it.
Okay. That is...
And I'll let you decide, is this stress because you were harassed the whole time you were doing it, but you kept on doing it anyway, or is it because you snuck in there and did it without anyone noticing?
I snuck in there without anyone noticing.
Okay, cool. So I guess that tells us the action then. Or, you know, I guess the action could be sneaking in or actually setting up the trap.
Either way you want to do it, I'm fine with either one. I was going to wreck to set up my trap. You feel me to prowl, I'm fine with that as well.
Sure. I was actually thinking a tinker to actually construct it.
Oh, okay. Okay, either one. Whatever you want me to do.
Okay. Well, I mean, the choice is ultimately yours. It just affects, how I'm going to set up position and effect for this. Actually, no, flashbacks don't do that. Sorry. Yeah, let's ignore that. You can do whatever action you want, Derek. It's one stress, and then we'll roll to see how it turns out.
Okay, I'll tinker.
Okay, sounds good.
And position effect on there.
Correct, yeah. Not in a flashback. Holy cow. Okay, well, you did a very good job of setting up this trap, and in fact, it's even less conspicuous than normal. What is it, in fact, that makes it even less conspicuous than normal? This switch.
It's actually it's actually kind of funny. It's actually the steps on the stairs. You have to hit the steps in a certain order, and it releases a mechanism which drops the cage 2 feet.
Okay, so you're walking up the steps then.
Well, walking up them, jumping down a step here or there, like sidestepping twice.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, okay. So you you jump up and down this staircase a little bit, and then all of a sudden this.
While I'm doing that, I'm singing my local 543 Union song because those are the dance moves that go with it.
Yeah, of course. And this is the cage that the torch singer is inside, right?
I mean, I didn't know she was going to be in there.
Okay, sure. Yeah, okay. So this cage drops a couple of feet, and of course the torch singer starts screaming and wailing. And sure enough, the bluecoats do stop. You can see them while you're on the stairs here. You can see them out in the crowd, and they're moving almost to the staircase. But then they hear all this screaming, and they immediately turn around. They pull out their truncheons. Officer Darmo and his buddy walk over there, and you've caused a successful distraction for now. Meanwhile,
Officer Darmo is certainly a sucker for a pretty face, I'm afraid.
And Baron, for what it's worth, you're popping a lot. I don't know if you can move it just a tiny bit further away from your mouth, maybe. But anyway, yeah. So we're back up in the office. We hear that there's screaming going on outside, and what's the reaction from the group?
I would smile to myself.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know that Benji would be surprised knowing that that's pretty much where they left Clank.
Yeah.
And it's about that time. So I think he'll probably turn and say, I think maybe that's our cue.
All right.
Indeed.
So,
is this any better? Am I still poppy?
Oh, it sounds great. Yeah.
Perfect. It's a fine positioning that really is going to be a matter of success.
Yeah. All right. So, Izel, I think you got to get out of here somehow. Maybe get up to the roof and start to prowl away.
I believe you're correct.
Cool. And I'm going to start a clock for this. The clock is going to be getaway safe. And I'm going to say this is an 8 clock. Cool. So I'll post that in the thread really quick. And let's see, what action are you using to start this process of escape?
I'm going to use a prowl action to... I imagine like these steps lead up to like a hallway, and then there's like a few other rooms up here besides just Salia's office.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm aware that perhaps this building maybe is not, prone to being structurally sound all the time. So, sneaking around here may be a little difficult, especially in just this single hallway. So I'm going to try and just quickly maneuver myself to the end of the hallway where perhaps there's a window.
Nice. Okay, cool. So let's see. This is... I think this is still a controlled action for you. Nothing really meaningful has changed except for a giant distraction downstairs, so controlled seems about right to me. Effect, you are a lurk, so this is standard for you. This is standard business, but you also have your fine shadow cloak on, right?
Yeah.
And fine increases effect, so right now you're at controlled and great effect. Would you like to manipulate those anyway?
No, I think for the purpose of what I'm doing, that should be fine.
Okay, cool. So then, just so it's clear, with a great effect, if you roll a 4 or a 5, that's 2 ticks on the getaway safe clock for you.
Excellent. Perhaps I will roll higher than a 1 or a 2.
Yeah, hopefully, right?
We'll see.
A
For
4.
For fuck's
Well.
sake, this was close.
So here's the deal. You've got 2 check boxes on the 4 clock to get away safe. You do make it to the window, or to the end of the hall. You get it through this window and you climb up to the rooftop. But you do see that, kind of as you expected, the rooftop does have a lot of barbed wire and things like that to discourage prowlers on the roof. So that's going to be a complication for you. Future rolls are going to be, I think actually what happens here, you go to a risky position. As you move forward, it's going to be a little more chancy for you to succeed.
Okay, and just to be certain, would my unaffected by quality of security when bypassing security?
In fact, it would. So even though this would be a normal complication for you, your special ability allows you to bypass that.
So with a crack of the neck and a flex of the old muscles here, we're going to do what we do best.
Delightful. Okay, cool. Meanwhile, downstairs, Salia, after pretty much right after Izel Umbra gets out the door, Salia looks at Benji and stands and says, "Well, shouting in the gambling hall, I suppose that is our cue, is it not?"
Indeed.
All right.
And he kind of opens the door for Salia.
I will lead the way. It is only natural for me. He goes out the door and he starts walking down the balcony, and he sees down in the area where this woman is clearly terrorized inside this cage. And these bluecoats are like standing underneath it, kind of with their arms up, trying to get it to be lowered down. And there are some wait staff that are in the corner trying to figure out the pulley system to get this to work. And Salia starts shouting like, "What are you doing on my grand opening? You ruin everything! Get out of here! Get out! What? You must answer for this!" And he starts to go down the staircase. Benji, are you making any sort of special preparations right now? Do you have any intentions right now? What do you think?
I think I think he's actually going to follow Salia down. Is he addressing the bluecoats?
Yes, it seems like he's shouting at the bluecoats.
Then he's absolutely right behind Salia.
Okay.
Camaraderie.
Cool. Of course. So you guys get downstairs together. You pass Clank on the way, surely. Clank, did you make it to the top of the stairs, or were you just continuing to dance on the stairs?
He's continuing to dance on the stairs.
All right. So that's what you pass, Benji.
Clank, how about another grog?
2 more grogs!
He kind of puts his arm around his shoulder and brings him along.
Okay, cool. All right, so you move off toward the bar together, or you go with Salia to address the bluecoats?
I think we go... I think Salia and the bluecoats might be like maybe on the way to the bar.
Okay.
And so like I'm escorting Clank as far as where Salia will have to peel off.
Okay. Sounds good. And then
And in
you're
the
parting
meantime,
ways with him?
like while I've got my arm around Clank, while we're getting to the point before we diverge, I'm going to tell him, look, just keep your eyes peeled. I think trouble is not far behind our friend.
Of course, that makes Clink look around suspiciously.
No, Clank, just watch the situation between Salia and the Bluecoats, if you will, from the bar.
And he slowly walks away.
All right. So Clank goes over to the bar, and Benji, are you going to join Salia, or are you going to join Benji?
No, Benji will be joining Salia.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so Benji walks over to Salia, and Salia is like gesticulating wildly as you come over, and the bluecoats are starting to lose patience with this. They still have their truncheons in their hands. It was just kind of an idle gesture. And as this cage is being lowered nearby them, not necessarily right over their heads because they're not idiots, you can see that they're just kind of starting to get like, excuse me, sir, excuse me, Salia, excuse me. Be calm, calm down. And like it's starting to escalate a little more and more.
Yeah, and Benji kind of steps in, puts his hand on Salia's forearm. Salia, maybe, and he kind of turns towards the bluecoats. Why exactly are you here?
Solia
Officially, that is.
Solia butts in really quick. This is a legitimate business. I say it over and over again. I show you the papers.
Yes, my friend. He kind of reiterates to the bluecoats with like a raised eyebrow.
And so Officer Darmo steps forward. We are here on the authority of the city, and we have been told that there are illegitimate gains to be found inside the vaults of this place, and we are here to inspect them.
Inspect them? Well, is that what your group is calling them these days?
Please, my lord, I presume?
You presume correctly.
Yes, well, we can make a scene of this here, or we can take this to the sides and discuss this like gentlemen.
Are you challenging me to a duel? Because you're not a noble, are you?
Excuse me, sir, I am exercising my authority as one of the law enforcement officers of this fine city.
Is it still illegal for officers to help themselves to illicit goods?
Oh, this is a challenge for sure. What are you doing to get him to get shaken about this?
Let's see here. What is this going to fit under? I think possibly sway?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Charm, logic, manipulation, something like that.
Yeah, I don't think finesse or prowl, skirmish. Yeah, I think sway is probably going to be the best.
I think,
fit.
for example, like you could choose finesse if you wanted to, and it would be as if you're finding the one thing that's really going to push his buttons or something. But I think that would be a harder position and effect split for you than using sway.
Yeah, I think sway makes more sense.
Okay, cool. So with sway, let's see here. This is
Still controlled?
yeah, I think controlled makes sense. This is kind of the first thing that's happening, and it's all going according to the plan so far. Effect, I think this is an officer of the law. Normally I'd say standard, but the tier is higher than you, and so I'm going to say limited for now. Now, do you want to trade position for effect, or push yourself, or maybe get assistance from Clank?
Let me...
Sorry, what are you swaying?
The officers to back down.
I know, but you're doing a sway roll, so if I help, I have to roll a sway.
Oh, I guess that's how it works.
Yeah, so I think so. Like, if, for example, if Clank wanted to assist, then Clank would just add one stress to his stress track and narrate how he's helping, and then you would get an additional die to your roll.
Oh, okay, I'll do that. Yeah,
It's a little different from a group action.
Okay.
as long as I don't have to roll sway.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, imagine Benji has positioned himself so that Clank is very visible, kind of like over one of his shoulders whenever he's discussing, whenever he's talking to Darmal.
Sure. And Clank, what is it you're doing?
Clank is actually putting a drunk in his place quite easily over Benji's shoulder to show that Clank is quite muscular.
All right, sounds good. So you're maybe getting a little rowdy over at the bar or something.
Not rowdy. I am keeping the peace.
Yeah, of course. In a way that only Clank knows how. Okay, cool. So Darmo is definitely noticing this going on, or actually Darmo doesn't notice it, but the officer standing next to him kind of nudges him and is like, "Hey, look over there!" And just as he's about to respond to you, Benji, he looks over at this scene that's starting to develop, and then you have your chance to say your piece and make your roll. So this is a sway action, and you're challenging the Bluecoats of like overreaching their authority or something.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
That maybe that what they're really here to do is not a big secret, and maybe now's not the time, kind of thing.
Okay, cool. And so you've got controlled position and a limited effect right now, but you can trade, do risky standard if you wanna do that.
No, not yet. Not with what else is going on.
Sure. That sounds good. Do you have any fine items on your character sheet?
I do, but I don't know if any of them are going to apply. One of them is a fine cover identity. So I don't know.
You could have been using a cover identity this whole time. I don't think anybody's necessarily said your name yet.
That's true. Other than maybe in the office with Salia.
Yeah, and he would know, so.
Right. Okay, so maybe with the fine fashion and everything that I've dressed myself in, maybe I'm passing myself off as a higher ranking noble than I actually am.
Ah, okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. So this is a fine cover identity, which means that you're going to go from controlled limited to controlled standard. So this is a pretty favorable position for you.
Okay, and let me.
And then you get an additional die from Clank helping you.
Okay, so sway, controlled, and standard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then single bonus die.
A 6. Nice. Okay, so you managed to do it. The barb kind of hits Officer Darmo, and well, that of course is not the case. We have all of our permits locked away and ready to go.
But you didn't bother to bring them with you to show to this establishment's fine proprietor. And he kind of gestures towards Salia.
He's clearly ruffled by this, and you can tell that like you're going to be on better persuasive footing with him in the future, and that's the benefit of what's happening. But he's like, of course, if you would like, we could send for more reinforcements to bring the paperwork with us, but I do not think you want that, sir. I think you would prefer to speak in private.
He kind of turns to Salia and says, well, this is your call, of course, Salia. But how would you like to handle this situation?
Salia looks around and he sees that there's really starting to be a lot of attention from the crowd. And it's like, yes, well, I think that, of course, if we could bring this to a private arrangement, then that would be just fine with me.
Well, then, Benji will kind of, like, step aside and kind of make an effort to have the two of them be between Salia and Benji.
Sure.
So okay, are they going to like the back room again?
Yeah, they're going back up to probably the office. And
can I do another flashback?
Sure, yeah. What do you want to do?
I want to, and this is with Salia's permission, make a device that, you know, those rooms where like you pull the thing and it turns. He has one of those for his safe. Like it has his real safe, and then it has his blue coat safe that.
Oh, you're talking about like a rotating fireplace or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That would be a massive undertaking. I feel like that would be something that you would have to craft with a long-term project. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
I really love the idea, but maybe instead of like a full rotating fireplace, it's like
it's just the safe. Like just the safe gets switched.
Okay. Even then though, that just seems like an awful lot of mechanics. Maybe you, instead of doing like a really complicated mechanical thing, you just advised him to set up 2 different safes. Like a decoy safe in the room and then a normal safe. Okay,
so what I did is I made like the hiding mechanism for the real safe.
Sure. Okay. That makes sense to me. And so I guess what does this hiding mechanism look like? Where does it hide the real safe?
Underneath the floors.
Taking a page from old Docker's practices, huh? All right.
So, I'm going to call that a wreck, if that's okay. So is that 1 stress or 2? I mean, I would think Salia would be okay with me doing this.
Sure. I mean, if wreck is like a destructive action for me, and this is a pretty creative thing, and so you can use wreck if you want to, but I think it would not work out in your favor in terms of position
okay.
effect.
So Tinker, as you think.
Tinker? Okay. That sounds good. And I think working with limited time on a fairly complex thing like this, it would probably be like a 2 stress action.
Okay.
Also because I would imagine you would hear no end of Salia complaining because it doesn't seem like a necessary thing until now in this exact moment when it turns out to be necessary, much after the fact. So 2 stress and a tinker roll. You already did it. Okay. 5 total. Yeah, it turns out you managed to hide it from reasonable inspection. Passive observer is not going to notice it. Somebody who's really looking is probably not going to find it. Somebody who's like tearing the room apart might be able to locate it.
Okay.
Cool. So, yeah, you're thinking as they're moving up the staircase about this moment in the past when you advised Salia and eventually won a contract to install this safe in the floor. And then there's a safe that's up on the wall that's hidden behind a painting, and that's the safe that they use as a decoy for their legitimate stuff. And so we are moving our way up to the office, but just as the door opens, the camera actually continues to go up through the building and up onto the rooftop. And we find ourselves now with Izel moving away from the place, trying to get to the safe drop-off location for the money.
So, I think that the drop-off is actually the Eek itself, and I'm not supposed to leave for the entirety of this. I'm supposed to come back at some point to maintain the subterfuge that, I was there to put Darmo off his game.
Of course. So maybe it's the case then that the first 4 segments of the clock are you going out, and the last 4 segments are you sneaking back.
Yes.
Cool.
So I have hence, parkoured the rooftops, scaled down perhaps a fire escape, and put the package in a secret compartment of the Eek. Like, oh my, your innovation, Clank, is a marvel all in itself. As I, stash this in the hull of this boat.
Sure. I will say though, I want another prowl roll from you to actually be able to reach the Eek, because that'll happen when you've filled half of the clock.
And I have access to light climbing gear.
Okay. So light climbing gear means that it's not going to actually affect your weight, your carry weight.
Okay.
And it'll give you the means to navigate the terrain like this, but it won't necessarily give you a boost. Only fine items will give you a boost.
Perhaps adding more items, maybe? Because I also have access to burglary gear.
Okay. Burglary gear could work too, but again, if it's not fine...
I was just curious if those would apply. I'm definitely going to use the light climbing gear because I see that coming into effect regardless. So I'm going to give you a prowl roll.
All right, cool. And I think the position here is risky, like we said. No, I guess it's still controlled because you bypassed that difficulty anyway. So we've got a controlled roll. We've got a standard effect. With your fine shadow cloak, it goes up to great. So that's what we're dealing with. Controlled and great.
I need to submit. That's why I'm not getting to the next page. Okay. 4.
A 4. Okay, so it does have a complication. And I think the complication is going to be that as you're moving, you see out of your peripheral vision, maybe you scale down the rooftop and you're moving your way through an alley toward the canal. You notice that you've got somebody following you at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So you are approaching the Eek. Is there anything that about your action that changes now that you know that you've got a follower?
I'm aware of this person.
Yeah. You kind of get the sixth sense, so to speak.
I've readied an arm. I have a blade or two.
Okay. All right. So maybe you're going to wait until this person gets close enough and then you're going to attack or something?
I'm going to assess the situation as they get a little bit closer, deduce who they are, and deem them worthy of killing. But
sure. Whoever they are, they're moving with grace and purpose. They're moving through the terrain just about as well as you are. And
yeah, of course they are.
And they seem to be making it pretty much directly for you. They just think they're moving far enough back that you don't notice.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, in terms of what I had done, I'm fine with that. But yeah, I definitely have. Actually, I'm gonna check an item real quick. But as of right now, just a blade or two is fine.
Okay, sounds good. So as you're moving closer to the Eek and this figure is coming up behind you, while you're checking your items, I'm going to switch back over to the other group. So Clank, you are at this bar, and you have just put your arm around this other guy, and you're like basically in a contest of strength with him, or try like a low key contest of strength. You're trying to show how much bigger and stronger you are than this guy. Is that the correct sense of the situation?
Sure, why not?
Okay. Well, I think that's
He was just like someone was getting rowdy, and so he put him in his place to kind of as the distraction to because Jeremy, whatever his identity was at the time, was trying to make it clear like that guy over there is with me. So, but I mean, it could have turned into like a good-natured arm wrestling thing. I'm fine with that.
well, I wasn't thinking necessarily good-natured. I was thinking that the guy was starting to get rowdy, and then you put your arm around him, and he was maybe not as intimidated as you had hoped.
I mean, in the eye of the beholder.
I guess so. What I would want you to do then is make a roll to actually make the effect real on him. How are you coercing this guy to calm down?
I'm gonna do a skirmish, I guess.
Skirmish? Okay, so you're just gonna fight him.
Well, I mean, not brawling, but like using my strength to hold him down and to.
Okay, so more of like a subtle grappling kind of thing then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you want to call that a finesse, I guess. Well, skirmish still makes the most sense to me.
Skirmish makes sense to me, sure, yeah. So you're going to try and control this guy's movement then and get him to calm down and not maybe agitate as much as he has been.
Yep.
All right. I think this is a risky position. Feels pretty standard. I guess the blue coats are gone. Maybe it's controlled. Let's call it a controlled position. And the effect, you are big and strong, so I'm going to say it's standard. This is a typical thing that we would expect you to do. Do you have anything that you want to do to manipulate those numbers?
I don't think I really have anything that would do that.
Okay, like you can push yourself, you could take a devil's bargain, you could trade position
no.
for effect.
No, I don't want to do that.
Okay, sounds good. So you're just doing a controlled standard action to try and affect this guy, get him to calm down. A 4. Okay, so you managed to do it, but the guy starts raising a real ruckus. And you know that like the ruckus he's raising is loud enough that it's drawing the bouncers over. It might even be enough to draw the attention of the Bluecoats upstairs because he's really shouting. You can't do this to me! I'm a paying customer! I've bought so many drinks at this place! Get away from me! I can do what I want! That sort of thing. And you're controlling his actions, but you can't control his speech. Of course, you can try and...
I'm trying to think. I care about the bouncers.
Sure.
But I don't know if I care if the Bluecoats, because if they're more distracted, the better.
Sure.
Okay, but I don't want to be on the bad side of the bouncers, but I would think that you're... So you're saying my position will change?
Well, I'm saying that, yeah, position would go down to risky for sure, and you can always try and resist if you want.
I'm fine with it going down.
Okay, sounds good. So you are wrestling with this guy, and the bouncers start to come over and like, "Excuse me, is there a problem here?" And this conversation is going on. What's your immediate response to this situation?
Nope, everything's fine.
Looks like he's maybe getting a little belligerent.
You're right. Maybe you should put him outside.
Outside, yeah. Well, looks like maybe you're getting a little belligerent too.
If I talk quietly, am I good?
You know what? The bouncer actually laughs, and he's like, I know ya. You're Clank, right?
Indeed.
I hear you want to sell his friends. Anyway, we'll get rid of this guy for you. And so they take the guy out and they kick him out. But at the same time, a lot of the patrons are like, "Oh, Clank, is it? That was really nice. He was ruining our night. Hey, can we buy you a drink?"
Indeed, you can.
Okay, so they come over and they start like feeding you a drink. They do a shot. They're like, "Oh, we'll all do shots together. It's there's a scorpion fly shot. Have you ever had it?"
I've had enough of scorpion flies.
Oh man, it stings like you wouldn't believe though, and let me tell you, it'll get you drunk too. Come on, we gotta do them. So they come over and it's like, a bartender, four scorpion fly shots. Who else wants one? We got two more, and like they start congregating a little bit of a party over by the bar there.
He says, fine, but one for that lady with the feathers on her sleeves.
You look around and you don't actually see Rosalind anywhere.
Dun, dun, dun.
Meanwhile, up in the office, so Benji, you are here in the room, and you know that there is this safe on the wall behind a painting, and this is the place where it's most likely for them to be looking to do a shakedown. I think it's probably reasonable that you also know that there's a safe on the floor where like the real stuff is. And so, are you guiding them at this point? Are you letting Salia take the lead? What are you doing?
So, Benji, I think, has probably learned a lot from Salia. Salia is like the actual contact on my list that's a positive.
Okay.
So I think Benji probably has learned a lot. The point that I took in Resolve was in Consort. So I think I've probably been spending a lot of time with Salia trying to, again, he's an information broker. I've been looking for information about the dream that I had. So I'm definitely letting him take the lead.
Okay.
But at this point, I think I almost understand like his dance in situations like this. And so I'm acting as his second. Like I'm putting myself where he needs me to be in order to support what he's saying and make sure that I'm going to be able to head off some trouble. Like Benji is fully ready to engage these bluecoats in a mild amount of violence in order to get himself like thrown in the tank for the night kind of thing.
Okay.
Like that level of violence, if it's going to provide the proper kind of distraction.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, and that's kind of in keeping with the spider too. I mean, the slide is the one who's a little more front rank doing the social manipulation. The spider is the one who's controlling things from the background, and so it makes sense to me that you would be sort of supporting Salia, making these little suggestions here and there, helping to guide the conversation, that sort of thing. Cool. So, Officer Darmo is like, yes, and where is this safe that we are supposed to be inspecting, eh? We will need to see your books as well, of course.
Inspect. He just kind of mutters to himself as he kind of wanders over to beside Salia's desk and leans on this cane that he has.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what is this painting that the vault is hidden behind?
I think that this is a reclined nude.
Okay. Yeah.
But like all of the colors are like blues and greens. Almost like a very like sea motif.
Okay.
So like it's blues and greens, but it's really dark and saturated with like black. But it's definitely like a nude from behind kind of thing. This woman kind of reclined out on like a chaise lounge kind of thing.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, that is the painting on the wall, and Darmo is kind of looking around, demanding where to be directed here, and you're mocking him, and so Darmo kind of looks at you disdainfully, and then looks around the room and is like, low-born gamblers. I would imagine the painting is probably hiding the vault. Is that correct? Do I miss my guess?
Benji kind of looks at Salia.
Salia, yes, just look at the vault and let us be done with it, okay? And Salia gets up and goes over to the vault, or goes over to the painting and swings it open, and sure enough, the vault is there. Do you want me to undo it? Here, I will undo it. The combination right here, back and forth, and then he opens it up, and there are like some paper notes, there are some coins in there, there are some papers like deeds and that sort of thing, but then there's also the books themselves, and he takes them out and he brings them over to the table and he opens them up and he says, look, you can inspect it for yourself, nothing I'll miss right here. And Go
I
ahead.
think maybe there's like a window in this office that kind of looks out over like the casino floor.
Uh-huh.
And Benji kind of goes over to it and kind of uses the handle of the cane to kind of open the blinds just a little bit and just mutters to himself, "Thieves."
Here's what I want to know. What did Benji do in the past to prepare for this exact moment when the blue coat started going through the books?
I think that Benji is actually the one who forged this fake set of books.
Ah, okay. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. So check on your gear section. You may have like documents or something that you can bring to bear in this
I
moment.
do.
Okay,
Documents. Okay.
I do too. So I was hoping you did.
I'm trying to see here if you have any quality upgrades there. It looks like you don't. So these are pretty standard documents for you. And if you're doing a flashback to plant these, then I'll just take that into consideration.
Okay.
You know, whenever you make your roll. So what kind of roll are you making then to forge these books to cook them?
So I'm thinking finance. Finesse. The other FIN word.
Sure.
It says employ subtle misdirection or sleight of hand. So like maybe matching, you know, the handwriting and making it look legitimate. Even though I don't have direct knowledge of like bookkeeping.
Sure. You're massaging the numbers a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe with Salia's help, you found the stuff that needed to be poked and prodded, and you made it all calm down.
Yeah, I made it look legitimate, minus everything that was sent with Umbra.
Sure.
So that disappeared.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, so let's do roll then for that, doing the finesse there, and the position and effect don't matter, of course. So
Okay.
let's roll and see what
Is
you
it a
get.
stress?
Yes, because it's a flashback. I think
Single?
this is like so you're not super experienced in it, but you had all the time you needed, so I think one stress is perfectly fine for this.
Okay. Position effect don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
No bonus dice. Come on, baby. It's not bad. 5.
5. Okay, cool. So yeah, you managed to cook the books fairly well. I think that there will be some sort of consequence for this later on down the road, like maybe a roll will be triggered, but for now, Officer Darmo starts to look through and puts on like a little spectacle to be able to read everything, and is managing to get into the books and start to examine them. Meanwhile, up on the rooftops, or actually down near the canals at this point, Ezel, I wanna point out to you that the crew already has unlocked a claim for covert drops. So maybe instead of making it to the Eek and then getting back to the party, there's also a component where you need to get to this covert drop and drop the money off there.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. So you are nearing the electric Eek. You're pretty much ready to board if you want to. However, you know that there's this person following behind you.
Right, and in this unexpected turn of events, I know that would simply be incriminating.
Yeah.
So rather than drop it there, I am going to use a flashback
Okay.
to set up some sort of drop. I think that being as we're by the canals, there is like some sort of dock just a little bit farther up that goes down into the water to like get on low laying like leech fish
Sure.
like skiffs. You know, like these guys are like their arms are in the water using nets to pull these things out or something. So you don't have them sitting right up next to the canal. These are kind of like lower class or whatever. And there's like some sort of like canister attachment or something that dips into the water and is suspended underwater until someone comes to pick it up.
Very cool. I also want to point out that you do have access to a cohort of rooks who are con artists, spies, and socialites. I don't know if they could really help you to recover this, but maybe for the other scoundrels, they could assist in some way at the gambling hall. So let's see here. You want to drop this off in this underwater covert drop area.
Yeah.
And
I feel like this is a little bit more finesse as compared to Prowl. I'm trying to misdirect as compared to sneak. I mean, ultimately, the premise here is being sneaky, but I think this is more of like, look over here while I do this thing with this hand.
Sure, yeah, it's misdirection for sure. I think that makes a lot of sense. So let's say that this is you're in a risky position now because you're being followed.
Okay.
And I think this is a standard effect for you. I'm not sure that you've got.
Can I trade position for effect?
Yeah, go down to desperate and go up to great.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is it? You're in pursuit. Where someone is in pursuit of you, I guess. And what do you do to make this an even more desperate situation than it was already?
I think just this maybe not isn't like. I think this kind of ties into my flashback. Is perhaps I foresaw this being a little bit more convenient than it was, but I've kind of like put myself at a dead end by going down these steps to a lower portion of the canal. So just literally my positioning in comparison to this person, I got to be fast.
Yeah, this would be an ideal place for this person to jump you or something.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay. Sounds very good. So let's see. Desperate and great effect. Do you want to push yourself? Do you want to take a devil's bargain? Anything like that?
Can you briefly explain pushing myself in devil's bargain again?
Yeah, pushing yourself, you add 2 stress, and as a result, you get +1 die or +1 effect. And devil's bargain, you also get 1 +1 die or +1 effect. But I give you an example of some way that the story will be complicated as a result. And I think that, so here's the devil's bargain. If you were to just go ahead and roll, then only on a complication would this person confront you. If you take a devil's bargain, then no matter what, this person is going to confront you, and it's not going to be a pleasant confrontation.
Of course not. I can't think of a better way to start the season than with the devil's bargain.
All right, cool. Okay, so this person is definitely going to confront you as you come down to this covert drop area then.
So I get a bonus die?
Yes, you do get a bonus die. Yeah,
or-
and this is finesse to make the drop before the person even realizes what you've done.
Exactly.
Desperate
5.
great. 1-5. Okay. Cool. So you got a 5, which means there is a success, but there's a complication too. So you managed to stash this covert drop, right?
Yeah.
And then you turn around, and all of a sudden the person is on you, and they have a pistol drawn. And they're going to fire this pistol at you.
Okay.
And so this is going to be level 2 harm. I think it's going to be a flesh wound is the nature of the harm. But you can resist it if you want to.
Or
would
do
like
you have armor?
Or use your armor, yeah.
I'm going to say that I had armor.
Okay. It's just one of your check boxes, of course.
Yes.
So go ahead and check that box. And then what I will say is that in this case, the armor, if it's on your arm, it's enough to take it down to level 1 harm. But I think
perhaps there's like I wore maybe like a not cashmere, Kevlar, like a finer Kevlar, so it's not gonna like completely protect me, but enough to prevent like my wound from spilling out of whatever wound I have.
For sure. And I was thinking that specifically it would look like you go down to level 1 harm and it's just a heavy bruise on your arm instead.
Yeah.
And so that might not impair your physical capabilities much. It might impair them a little, but it would also have like social implications if you ever go with your arms bared.
Right.
Cool.
What would you name this harm? Just
heavy bruising.
heavy bruising.
Yeah.
And can I try to resist it?
Yeah, absolutely. If you'd like to, go ahead.
And that would be a prowess since it was a finesse, correct?
Correct, yeah.
All right.
A 3. So you would take 3 stress then to avoid this thing. So you, how do you avoid the consequence of getting shot in the arm as soon as you notice that this person is finally like on top of you?
I stabbed them in the arm with the knife that I had.
Oh shoot. Okay, so you like lash out back in response. I'm gonna say this isn't actually like a connection per
No, this is
se.
a flash rather than a stab.
Yeah.
I'm
Cool. So the knife flashes out just in time for the gun to go off target and shoots off into the empty air. There's this gigantic flash, this huge plume of smoke from this flintlock pistol, and you are
rephrase again. It's not a knife. It's a hairpin.
a hairpin. Okay. Ah, yes. Perfect. Very good. Okay, so you're like coming after this person with a hairpin, and the person is roughly your height, but their clothing. It's a lot bulkier. You would expect them to be like maybe a short man or something, like kind of a gymnast build or something. And they're not making any noise, but as they're fighting you, they're kind of moving out of the way, and it's a very lithe kind of movement that they're doing. So this fight is happening down in the bottom of the docks here. Meanwhile, back at the gambling hall, Clank, you are having some drinks with people. They keep putting shots in front of you, and
I keep drinking them.
yeah, I think this is going to need to be a resistance roll to avoid getting level 1 harm drunk. I'm not even going to make you do like an action roll to trigger it. I think it's just a consequence of what's been going on.
I mean, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Okay, cool. So I think prowess makes the most sense for me for resistance.
I don't even want to resist it.
maybe resolve would work too. Oh, you're just going to take the level 1 harm.
I guess I'll try to resist it, but I don't really care.
I mean, you might as well take it then. That's fine with me.
What'd you say? Prowess? You think?
Prowess, correct? Yeah.
I'll resist it.
Okay, so that's going to be 1 stress for you to handle your liquor and take this in stride. So also,
Sorry.
I was going to say I've been forgetting to update the clock for the getting away safe on Umbra's part, and so I think the past 2 you've each had 1 success, so we're at halfway at this point.
Can I do a roll for our rooks as my turn?
Sure, yeah, that's totally possible.
While I am getting rowdy and all that, our rooks are out there looking to make sure that our plan is doing okay, and they see Umbra is in this sticky situation. So I had given them the lightning bulb to help.
Okay,
So,
cool.
And I rigged it so all they had to do was just place it. So my plan is for them to use it to cause a distraction so that Umbra can escape.
Okay, cool. So usually when you roll for your cohort, it's just your tier. And let me double check and make sure there aren't any like special considerations there. Using a cohort, roll their quality to see how it goes. Their quality is equal to the current crew tier. So you'll roll 2 dice to see how this goes. It's essentially just a fortune roll.
So just roll fortune.
Yeah.
With 2 dice.
Yeah. A 3. Doesn't go so well. So I think this lightning bulb does go off, but I don't think Umbra was quite counting on it, and so it's going to flash in front of both of them. And Umbra has been working in a controlled or risky position so far. I think she goes down to desperate for this thing.
Sorry, Umbra.
All right. Meanwhile, back upstairs, we've got this inspection going on. The books are being cooked, etc., and Darmo is asking for receipts, etc. It's getting to the point where he's kind of overstaying his welcome. He's looked through the books. He's asked for receipts. He's double-checked some things. There's no real reason for him to be here anymore. He just doesn't seem like he wants to give up.
And for the moment, until Umbra returns, Benji is perfectly okay with them being like contained here. He doesn't want them to get a leg up on Salia, but he understands that them being distracted here doing this is better than them thinking that something might be going on outside of this room. So he is going to be playing at being needly and pissed off, but it's all smoke and mirrors.
Okay, cool. So you're trying to like maybe manipulate them into keeping them there. I think you don't want them to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what kind of action would you consider that to be? I think
Probably
sway makes sense to me again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to bluff them.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, and I think that things are pretty calm right now. The guy seems to be really searching, though, so I think I'm going to say that this is a risky position.
Well, and I'm definitely continuing to like needle him to try to get under his skin.
Sure. Sure. So I think then definitely a risky position. Standard effect would go down to limited for the difference in tier, but then your find cover identity is still useful here because it's not like any consequences will be settled on your shoulders, and so I think you can go back up to risky standard there. Do you want to trade position for effect, push yourself, anything like that?
Yeah, I'm gonna push myself.
Okay, cool. So 2 stress, and you either get a bonus die or you go from standard to great.
I'm gonna get with a bonus die here.
Cool. 5. Okay, so with a risky position, a 5 includes a complication. I think I'm going to start up a new clock here. It's going to be a 4 clock, fairly quick. And the clock is identity or cover blown. And the people know, like the bluecoats know generally that you have this, that Benji has this soiled relationship with the department. And I'm going to tick 1 box on this cover blown thing because Darmo, in your ranting, has started to kind of pierce your mask. You can choose to resist it, of course, or you can choose to just take the tick.
I'm going to try to resist.
Okay, cool. So you did sway, which means that this is a resolve resistance roll, and you'll take 6 stress minus whatever you roll.
Resolve. A bonus dice. Ooh,
3,
yeah.
so you take 3 stress then. So you do manage to kind of cover your ass. You do sort of reassert your authority and reassume your character or whatever. What does that look like? How do you get the guy off your trail?
I think he starts name dropping how friendly that he is with Mr. Fitz.
Okay.
Talking about how he was at one of his parties not long ago, and how that he's going to like use a lot of really evasive language on purpose to make it seem like maybe they're thinking about entering into some kind of business deal, perhaps a very lucrative business deal. Kind of discussing this with Salia in terms that seem to misdirect, but that hopefully the blue coats are just smart enough to kind of pick up on.
Very nice. Okay, cool. I love that. Yeah. So they start to insinuate that like you are really connected, and maybe they shouldn't be messing with you as much as they are.
Well, and connected in different ways, hopefully, than Benji. Because if they know about Benji, then they likely know that he and Fitz are not friendly in the least.
Right. Absolutely. Cool. That makes sense to me. And so, the Darmo sort of looks at the books and is like, well, I think we've seen all we need to see here. I suppose it is time to leave. And closes the book and starts to make for the door. And
It's about time.
but you realize Umbra is not back yet. In fact, Umbra is partway across the city, having just dropped off this parcel, but locked in combat with a mysterious figure when all of a sudden a giant flash illuminates everything and momentarily blinds Umbra. What's your reaction to this? This would be a great opportunity to get a cheap shot in if you can get lucky. Might be a great time to stumble away. Maybe your assailant is blinded too. What do you think?
I think initially the plan would have been for me to use this to escape. And though I don't believe it may have gone off the way I intended, I think that's still what I'm going to do. So, utilizing one of my last items, I have a silence potion vial, which nullifies any sound I make in a 10-foot radius around me. So I would imagine there's some mildly arcane properties to this, but in a daze, I'm going to try and sneak away from this person.
Very
while
cool.
they're also stunned.
All right, so you're using the silence potion to give yourself an opening.
Yeah.
We're talking about how this is already in a desperate position because you're yourself kind of blinded.
Right.
I think the effect, especially with the silence potion, has the potential to be standard. You could get away successfully. So do you want to trade position for effect? Do you want to push yourself, take a devil's bargain, anything like that?
Nope. If I do any more to myself, I'm going to try 'em out in the first episode. So.
Okay, cool. Probably best to avoid that then.
Yeah.
So desperate position, standard effect, and let's see how this roll turns out.
I swear to God, if I roll a 1 again.
A 5, okay.
5, okay.
Not bad. All right, so you get away. However, there's this strange creature that observes your departure. It's not a large creature. It's probably no longer than a cat. But it looks kind of like a jellyfish. If a jellyfish were sometimes like a crab with really long legs that's just kind of floating.
This is a weird thing.
This thing is just kind of it's doing this weird thing where it will move, and as it moves, its tentacles or whatever, these like chitinous sort of tentacles are waving behind it and generating these static pops here and there. But it's moving, and it'll move, and then all of a sudden it'll just flash, and it'll be like up against a wall or resting on a crate top or something like that. And every time it does this, instead of being this chitinous creature, it's this sagging blob of sort of gelatinous flesh.
So
and
to
then all of a sudden
build
it'll start
off that is maybe this thing like able to like bounce not completely through but into the veil, and like its chitin kind of disappears as it does so.
Yeah, it does look really ethereal in the moments when it's kind of this gelatinous blob thing, but it's got this. It in the midst of all the chitin, there's this big black dome of a lens, and it's like, you know, insects have the multiple eyes in the one eyeball or whatever. That's exactly what's going on the front of this thing, and it's just sort of angled toward you as you get away. And this is a complication, so something might happen as a result of this if you choose not to resist it.
I'm just gonna have to deal with this one. I may not notice it at the time, being as I'm partially blind, but I'm teetering too close here.
All right, so you're over halfway with getting away safe, and you do manage to successfully get away from this mysterious assailant who's pursuing you. You get into the streets, and you realize it's time to get back to the gambling hall at this point. Meanwhile, Clank, so you've been, you know, enjoying the party. You've been taking shots and all this stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to look for Lady Rosalind now.
Well, the crew, the crowd that's around you has actually started singing about the finer points of the gambling hall. What is the name of this gambling hall that they keep announcing in song over and over?
Where's Salia from?
Salia is from, I think, the Dagger Isles, probably.
This is going to be the Isles Paradise.
Ah, okay. Very nice. The Isles Paradise. I'm trying to write this down, and my keyboard is not working. The Isles Paradise. All right. Cool. So they are chanting this song with you, but you want to go find Lady Roslyn. So you're looking around, and you're just not seeing her. I think you probably need to ask somebody in the crowd if they've identified her, or if they've noticed her anywhere recently.
Okay. I mean, I'll just ask random people if they've seen the lady with the feathers.
Sure, okay. To me, if you have an action to suggest about how you're gathering this information, then that makes sense to me. Otherwise, I would just say we should roll a fortune based on your tier of your crew.
I'd rather do that because this might be like a survey, and I don't have anything in it, so...
Sounds good. Okay, so let's roll 2 dice, and let's see how this turns out. I think consequences will happen as if it was risky and standard. All right, well, you got yourself a critical. So they quickly are like, oh, yeah, I saw that bitch. She was really mean to me. One other person was like, I cried for 5 minutes because of the things she said to me. There are a lot of people who really did not like this woman, and they're all like, oh well, but you know what, I haven't seen her in maybe 30 minutes. It's been a while. And you ask around, and it seems like she's just gone. Where did she go?
Can I... Okay. No one... I can't find anyone that saw her leave.
Yeah, as far as you can tell. Actually, no, you rolled a critical. Somebody saw her leave. Somebody saw her go out down the kitchen hallway 30 minutes ago.
Okay, I'm going to go that way.
Okay. So you head out down the kitchen hallway, and some people kind of take umbrage that you're going there, but it's not like they're going to stop you, a giant man with engineering hands. I
also have subterfuge supplies. So I hold up some sort of badge of office. So I look like health inspector.
Okay, yeah, sure. They're like, oh no. And then you just blaze right past them. You get out into the alley behind the Gambler's Hall, and nothing particular looks amiss, but you know that this is the same general direction that Umbra traveled in.
I'm going to go that way then and see what I can do to either find Umbra or Rosalind.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. So you are going off down the alleyway to look for somebody, either of the women that you've been around tonight. Meanwhile, up in the office, Officer Darmo is about to make his way out of the door. And Benji, what are you allowing this to happen? Are you trying to distract him a little longer? What do you think?
He actually kind of sticks his cane kind of out across the tops of Darmo's knees.
Mm-hmm.
Should we turn out the officer's pockets? He kind of looks at Salia, just to make certain that they're not accidentally helping themselves.
So Salia, kind of, his eyebrows shoot up to the top of his forehead, and the bluecoats look at each other, and they're like, Officer Darmo turns back to you. I beg your pardon, sir. What are you saying? Do you imply that we would steal under these legal premises?
Of course not. No. You do all of your stealing in the dark.
Now, see here. I do not appreciate your tone, sir. I understand you are a member of the nobility, but we are a noble profession ourselves, the bluecoats.
If you say so.
I won't take this. I won't take this at all. We will speak to our bureau chief, and perhaps he will have some sort of fitting visitation to give you in the coming days and weeks.
If you insist. You're a tiresome individual.
Tiresome? So here's the deal. I think at this point you can manipulate them into doing what you want them to do with an action. So what is it that you want them to do right now?
I want to get under his skin to the point where he wants to either spend time dressing me down right here, or he wants to maybe even have it come to blows. Again, like I want to make this guy hang here.
Yeah, okay.
So I bet just about whatever means I can.
All right, cool. So I think this is some sort of like social thing. You're provoking him.
Yeah, exactly.
What role are you imagining for this?
Provoking. I think it's. I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I think it's probably sway still.
Sway makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. So I think that this is a risky thing for sure. I mean, the threat of harm is real when you're dealing with the Bluecoats,
Sure.
and pretty standard effect. So do you want to trade position for effect or anything like that?
I think in this situation, I do actually.
Okay, go down to desperate and go up to great. So you're really laying it on thick then. You're really trying to like, yeah. All right.
Like I'm full on like goading this guy into like striking me if he, so chooses.
Very cool.
Like, Benji's okay with it.
All right.
At this point.
All right. Well, let's see what this roll is like then.
Okay, so that's going to be desperate, and would be great.
Great. Correct.
Okay. No bonus dice. Oh God.
It's the worst outcome. So I think Officer Darmo has his hands on the door. It's a double door set, and he's got his hands on the doorknobs, and he opens the doors, and then he hears you start to just totally insult him, and he closes the doors. And he turns around, and he looks at his Bluecoat companion, and they pull out their truncheons, and they say, I think evidently you are too snooty for any sort of punishment later on. And they just advance on you and raise their truncheons, and they're going to give you a sound beating. I think this is level 3 harm. This is beaten within an inch of your life. And of course, if you have armor or if you want to resist it, those are things that you can do.
So I came lightly prepared. I have taken documents, but we also have the thief's gear. So I'm definitely going to take armor.
Okay.
I don't think, not heavy armor, but just normal armor.
If you take heavy armor, you can lower it down to level 1. With just normal armor, you'll lower it down to level 2 harm. You've got the checkboxes for it, at least.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I'll take heavy.
So somehow under this suit, you managed to like put in armor plating or something like that to avoid getting the ribs cracked as they're giving you a real beating here. And
I assume you make it seem like you're getting really hurt.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think instead of level 3 harm beaten within an inch of your life, instead you're soundly cuffed. It's level 1 harm.
Okay.
And you're a little sore and maybe a little rigid for the next few days. All right, so you've successfully managed to delay them at least this long. And Izel, you are still trying to get back. So let's see here. You are moving over the rooftops again. You're moving through the alleyways. What are you doing?
I think I'm moving through the streets at this point. Climbing back up through the window seems a little... I can't think of the word. Not the right course of action.
Sure.
So perhaps I'm just trying to get there quickly.
Okay. So you're just
with some stealth, I suppose.
Okay. So you're prowling there one way or another, because prowl can also be just moving across the landscape. It doesn't necessarily have to be stealthy.
True. I am the most prowly person. So yeah, I'm gonna prowl.
All right, cool. So I think the position here is risky. You've gotten out of the immediate danger, but it's still a chancy experience. And the effect would be standard, but you've got your shadow cloak, so it's going to go up to great. We're at risky great right now, which means if you succeed, you'll fill 2 segments on the clock. And if you get a critical, it'll be all 3, and you'll be done with this. I will say also that if you are moving back toward the gambling hall and Clank is moving away from the gambling hall... Oh, you do?
Yes.
Okay, well, all the better.
So, yeah, I'm trying to just beeline to the gambling hall to make my appearance again.
Okay. But like I said though, if Clank wants to assist you in this moment, Clank can add a stress to his track, and you can get an extra die.
If you would like to, maybe you intercept me and I return to the bar or gambling hall with you.
Well, if you roll high enough.
Yeah.
I will do that. Man,
We're
this
playing-
is a really stressful mission for
Yeah, we
Clank.
played it real close to the chest this game. So, all right. Bonus die 1.
Let's see how this goes.
I don't even know if I want to submit this.
A 6. Okay.
It's the
You got-
only one that has mattered.
Yeah, you got those final 2. So you successfully make your way back to the gambling hall. At this point, the blue coat officers come out of the office, and they're sort of like wiping down their truncheons. And Clank and Ezel, as you come inside the building, you can see that these blue coats are clearly wiping some sort of like blood or gore of some kind off of their truncheons.
I think like as they're exiting the room, like we see kind of Benji like halfway leaned up off of the floor with like blood coming out of his mouth, but he's smiling.
Ah, okay. All right. Very good. Very good. So they kind of brusquely leave the building. And...
Well, actually, I would like to try to intercept them.
Oh, okay.
Trying to just solidify my cover here.
I would say Clank had you change back before going through the kitchen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Okay, that sounds good. So you get back in, and you're dressed as Ezel now instead of Umbra.
Correct.
And what are you doing to sort of solidify?
I'm definitely trying to give off the impression that I'm a little drunk.
Okay.
And that Clank is kind of carrying me back, and not carry, but like, escorting me back.
Clank is
an arm
giving
around
you
his
a
shoulder.
piggyback, like you're doing like a piggyback ride on Clank.
See, I don't want to go that far.
And not like a you can't walk piggyback, but just like a oh this is fun kind of piggyback.
Yes, okay, that's fair.
It's decadent.
Oh, Darmo, my dear, I did not even know you were here. I've just been having so much fun. I had to go outside and catch my breath for a moment.
Ezel, I cannot believe that you would debase yourself this way.
Debase my Darmo, you are too serious too often. Those blue coats really just suck the fun out of you.
So it sounds like you're trying to bluff this guy.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I think this is risky. You have a relationship with this guy, of course. Actually, this guy's an ally. You're trying to bluff him. I think this is going to be desperate.
Okay.
And effect, though, has the potential to be standard. Do you have anything that would benefit you here?
Outside of the fact that he's my significant other, and I'm getting, ex-significant other, and I'm getting a piggyback ride from a buff engineer.
Yeah, I feel like if anything, that would hurt you instead of help you.
Well, never mind. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna roll with it.
Sure.
There you go.
All right, so desperate standard consort.
I got a 5. I got a 5.
All right. So I think the relationship is just a little bit damaged with Officer Darmo here. I think let's call that level 1 harm.
Okay.
And it will be
spurned lover.
Yeah, I think spurned lover is reasonable there. So anytime you want to invoke Officer Darmo in the future, if you don't do something to recover from that harm, then it's going to be a little harder for you to do so.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, so Officer Darmo is like, well, I never, and storms off in a huff, unable to even really complete sentences around you.
And like as soon as he turns around,
I was going to say Clank yells after him, I never either.
Oh, don't patronize him. We've done it.
So you all go upstairs to the office to debrief after the situation, and you come in to find Benji. Not totally mangled, but still got a fat lip, got a black eye.
Clank picks up a tooth.
It's a molar, fortunately.
Benji, I didn't want to believe that was your blood they were wiping off their weapons.
Well, It was necessary.
Yes, quite so. We have the money safely stashed away, I hope. You have good news?
Yes, I have every reason to believe it should be safely tucked away.
Were there any snags that you encountered on your path?
It seems as if I was followed upon leaving the gambling hall, but I have every reason to believe I had dispatched them.
All the same, we will send our couriers to pick up the parcel immediately. Thank you very much for your service.
But of course.
We will take care of everything from here. But now, I feel bad, my friend Benjamin. Come. We must toast to a success, despite the lumps that we gained on the way. Yes.
Indeed.
And so, Salia is going to pour little glasses, like port glasses, sort of, but actual berry wine out for everybody, and offer it up as a toast. And this is the scene that we're going to end on as we pull out of the gambling hall and go out of Silk Shore across the waters, and we find ourselves receding further and further away from the city as we fade to black. And that is our session for the night. Are we good to do downtime before we officially wrap up? Do you guys have actions in mind for what you want to do?
Reduce my fucking stress.
Same.
Good lord.
All right, so let's start with Izel. You're the new member here, so you're indulging your vice to work off stress. What is your vice?
My vice is simply put as obligation, which I've kind of entailed to mean a variety of things. I am not simply a burglar. I'm also going to school. I have obligations through family. So my vice is kind of the remedial kind of events and tasks that I have to do as just my position of wealth.
Okay.
So
you're
going
obligated
to dinners,
to live
going to
kind of-
dinners, meeting with people for tea or whatever, you know.
Sure. You have to live your mundane life.
Exactly.
Man, that sounds so hard.
Some of us don't take drugs.
I I also have functioning vice.
Yes.
So when I indulge my vice, I can adjust the die outcome, but an ally who joins in my vice may do the same.
What is your vice? Adrenaline?
Yeah, speed.
Benji, won't you please take me for a boat ride?
I mean, I sort of use speed too.
I mean, it's very true.
Well played, Derek. So yeah, if you'd like, because I plan on doing that as well. So
I would love to join you for a boat ride.
Cool. So it allows you to adjust your die outcome by one or
Either
two,
way.
up or down.
All right, we're gonna do an indulge vice. Good lord. Okay, we're gonna bump that to
yeah.
2.
You can do it by 1 or 2 points.
Okay, we're gonna bump that to 3, and that'll be fine. And I have one more action.
Yes, correct.
Reducing harm is handled. Is that similar to indulging vice? I forget the rules. We haven't played in so long.
Reducing harm, you will recover. And so recovering is whatever action makes sense to actually recover from the harm. So in the case of like a scorned lover, maybe doing like some consort or sway makes sense.
Yeah. Me and Darmo are going to go to dinner.
All right. Talk things out. Mend the fence.
Position is controlled and...
Yeah, position and effect don't matter for this. I was going to ask, though, indulging your vice, how many did you clear?
3 out of my 6 total.
Woof, okay.
Yeah, we were getting pretty high there in the beginning. It's like, okay, I need to stop being so courageous.
And Benji, how much did you clear from your stress?
I don't think Benji's made the roll yet. So.
Oh, okay.
I have not.
All right, sounds good. So consorting then to recover, you got a 3, so you can fill up your healing clock by 1 segment for that first level harm.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Recover -1. Okay. Alrighty then. I want to, before we continue with the other downtime activities, I want to do payoff.
Yeah.
So first of all, the crew earns 2 rep per score by default, +1 per tier higher for your target, so that would be 3 total. However, I think you kept the operation completely quiet, so nobody really knows about it, which means normally you would earn 0 rep, but because you have the No Traces special ability, then you get half the rep value of the target rounded up. So instead you're going to get +2 rep. And if you can end with 0 heat in this downtime, then you also have an additional +1 rep. And right now you have 4 heat for what it's worth.
We're also wanted once.
Yeah, but
anything?
heat and wanted are independent of each other. It basically just determines consequences from entanglements and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were muted, Baron, by the way.
Yeah. In terms of loot, I have the ability, a little something on the side. So after downtime, add +2 stash.
I love that ability. I have that on one of my own characters.
So I almost want to say that, as we're leaving, open my coat to reveal like a wad of cash that I have.
You stole from somebody?
Yeah.
Very nice. I love it. I love it. Speaking of your cash, so you've got 2 rep right now. You also earn coin based on the nature of the operation. This is, I think, a standard score, so 6 coin makes sense. But you have the covert drop special ability, and we used it, which means that you get +2 coin for espionage or sabotage. So that's pretty nice. You get 8 coin total from that.
And that's to the crew, right?
Yes, to the crew, but you can divvy it up however you'd like. And I will say also that one of the other perks, this operation was kept quiet, so you don't get any heat. But one of the other perks is that you did get to claim Gambling Den. And so you can make a tier roll minus the heat that you have to earn coin in downtime. So that's one more reason to try and get rid of your heat if you want to give it a try for somebody. But I think first of all I want to resolve Benji's Indulge Vice roll, since we've already said that's the thing that's going to happen.
Yep. Okay. Indulging my vice. No bonus dice.
Yeah, correct.
4.
4, okay, so you're going to...
But I'm going to adjust that. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I am also at 6, so I'm going to raise that by 2.
Nice, okay, so you just completely clear your stress then.
Nice little drive.
You're doing all right. You take a really nice little drive. It's reckless, it's chaotic, it's thrill-seeking, and it's really good for you.
Yeah,
Benji, you madman.
So are we going to have Clank Indulge Vice as well? Is that something that you wanted to do?
Yeah, but I'll let Benji do his other downtime first.
Okay, so Benji then, what's your second downtime action?
Oh, man. I guess I'm going to work on trying to get the heat lowered. Yeah, I think that makes more sense right now than working on the La Rose Demon thing.
So reduce heat, and we have got, let's see
I think you said
here.
4.
Yeah, 4 heat. So you're going to make an action to try and reduce the heat total then.
The heat that we have on us, was that from last time? With
It
La
was,
Rose?
yeah, it was left over.
Okay. So I think that it's probably still related to that, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So Benji is going to... He's going to go around and find places where he can plant more and more evidence, tying not only his identity to the one that he was using at the gambling house, to the railjacks, like through the whispers, the network of whispers, but also implicating the railjacks further in La Rose's disappearance.
Very cool. All right. And what kind of action are you looking at for this? Maybe...
I think either finesse or consort.
Sure. I think finesse would look more like, planting evidence, and consort would look more like spreading rumors and that sort of thing.
Okay, so this is probably more spreading rumors work.
All right. Sounds good.
I think.
So then you will make your roll without any consideration for position or effect, and we'll see how you do. A 4. So you managed to reduce 2 of the 4 heat that's on your playbook. You got halfway there. That's pretty nice.
Cool. Yeah. Better than I thought.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, I'm calculating. So due to careful planning during downtime, I may give myself or another crew member +1 downtime action.
Aha.
So let's have Derek do his, and then if we still have a little bit of heat, maybe we can use that extra one to try to get rid of the rest of it.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool. In that case, I am going to go straight to Stasia, because that was a stressful evening. I need to let her know what's been going on. I didn't cheat on her. I did what we were supposed to. Going to tell her all about this weird Lady Rosalind character that disappeared. All while all hopped up on amphetamines.
Yeah, of course. So let's see how this goes then. A 4. All right, so you subtract 4 stress from your stress track. What does that leave you with?
2.
Nice. So yeah, she managed to help you clear a lot of stress. I think not only does she give you a re-up on your, shall we say, prescription, but she's also pleased to hear of your fidelity, and she rewards you with a pretty fun night.
Well, that sounds fun.
It does. Pretty fun, even.
Yeah. I really want to... What happens again if I overindulge?
If you overindulge, then we roll on a table and determine what happens. I don't have the list in front of me right now.
I really want to... Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work in... Inspiration struck after that pretty fun night. And I'm going to go work and finish my stun glove.
Nice. So you're going to produce one now?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. That's just a crafting roll, so just make a tinker and we'll determine what the quality is.
Okay, so it's going to be a +1 result level, because I'm an artificer, and we are tier 2.
Mm-hmm.
So take that as you will.
I think that's pretty much guaranteed.
4.
A 4? So let's see here. Crafting, that means the quality is equal to your tier, but you do end up with a tier 3 stun glove because of the bonus from your natural special ability.
Cool.
Very nice. So, and just as a reminder, this is conspicuous and consumable, but you can use it once per session to give yourself a boost to the roll to incapacitate someone.
I would like to spend a coin if I was going to get one of those coins we earned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to... Does everyone just want 2 coin from the 8 we got?
Yeah, we could just keep the other 2 in the crew.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to spend 1 to indulge my vice again. So please forgive me if I overindulge.
All right, we'll see how it goes.
Because I got so excited about my stun glove, I went and had more drugs. And I overindulged.
Sure enough, you overindulged. So let's see how this works out. With
But it gets rid of all my stress. So
it does get rid of all your stress. If you roll, clears more stress than you marked, you overindulge. When you overindulge, you make a bad call because of your vice in acquiring it or under its influence. You select an overindulgence from the list. Attract trouble, which means that you select or roll an additional entanglement. You brag about your exploits and you gain +2 heat. You are lost and your character vanishes for a few weeks. Play a different character until this one returns from their bender. When your character returns, they've also healed any harm they had. Or tapped, your current purveyor cuts you off. Find a new source for your vice.
I'll say tapped.
Tapped? Okay. So Stasia lays the hammer down. And she says, "You're not going to get any more amphetamines from me, okay? You're really abusing them, and it's starting to scare me. I want you to promise me you'll take fewer of them."
Yeah. What?
All right. Okay. So, you're tough. You're cut off for a little while, but I guess really your indulge vice should have been making sandwiches for what's his face, Tuto. But it's okay. We can. This was a nice thematic thing to use for this time. So we'll do the sandwiches next time. All right. So then finally we have Benji. I think Benji wanted to use a special ability to do one more activity.
Yes, I'm going to try my best to get rid of the other 2 points of heat that we have.
Okay, cool.
And since I used Consort last time, this time I'm going to use Finesse for planting like physical evidence to try to support the rumors that I'm spreading.
Sounds really good.
Okay.
You need at least a 4 to be able to clear it.
Come on, baby.
Hey, all right, a 6. Very nice. Okay, so you managed to clear 3 heat total, which means you go down to 0. And because of that, you start off, you get an additional rep on your track. So well done there. And then I believe that's it. What was the other thing that was your special ability or something? It affects...
I gave 2 extra stash.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Well then, so that is our downtime activities for the time. I do need to roll an entanglement though. So can somebody please roll me 1d6?
If it's not too late, I would spend a coin to train, if that's cool.
Oh sure, yeah, absolutely. What are you training?
Prowess.
All right, so you actually get 2 experience for that.
Excellent.
Nice. Okay, cool. So then, somebody rolled a fortune. Okay, so that's a 6, and if you have 1 wanted level, you have 0 heat, which means cooperation. What does that mean? +3 status faction asks you for a favor. Agree to do it or forfeit 1 rep per tier of the friendly faction or lose 1 status with them. If you don't have a +3 faction status, you avoid entanglements right now. The Dockers are +3 with you. And the Dockers want your help negotiating for raises. They think that if you were to use your star power as the crew of the Eek, then you could positively affect their wage negotiations. And if you choose not to, you forfeit 3 rep, or you lose 1 status with them. And I think this is going to be maybe the subject of the score next time, so it's not like an idle consideration you're making right now.
I mean, Clank is all for helping them.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like this is going to come hard on Jonathan, but that's his problem now.
All right, so we've got next time the Dockers want help negotiating wages, but you do manage to avoid any sort of rep or status loss with them. And you got +8 coin, you got +3 rep, I think. Yeah. Heat +0. And now we're going to move into our outro. And so our tale draws to a close for now, an uncertain close in the midst of direst danger. But remember to tune in next time for the ongoing criminality of Ring Down Below, presented by KMGX. Until then, keep your eyes on the canals. We're on the prowl. So I want to thank everybody for joining the show tonight. If you are watching during the day, I want to thank you for joining the show today. We really appreciate you tuning in. I hope you had a lot of fun. This felt like a really good start to Season 2 for me. And I want to pass it off to the players for their outros where they can talk about projects that they're doing and that sort of thing. So let's start with Jeremy.
Hey, everybody. Like I said, my name is Jeremy. I have the YouTube channel, The Erasmus Expeditions. I have a lot of live plays and videos about crafting and talking about RPGs and things of that nature. I am also 1/3 of the Dudes of Yore podcast, which can also be found on YouTube, which I do with my friends Jeff Doty and Chad Nick. We talk a lot about RPGs. Stop by. I think we're having our next session for that is Sunday, and it will be live. So stop by and check it out. Thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the changes that Benji has gone through since the beginning, and kind of trying to portray all of that. And I really don't think he's going to last a lot longer. I think he's reaching a breaking point, and that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. It's cool to have seen him hang on through thick and thin so far, but you can tell he's really starting to fray at the edges, and it's going to be really fun to see how that finally takes him down in the end.
Yeah, he's going to come unglued, and it's not going to be pretty.
Well, as always, it's great playing with you, man, so thanks for joining, as always. Next, we're going to do Baron.
What's up, everybody? I'm Baron. I portrayed Ezel Valeris today. Sneaking around's cool, so that was a lot of fun. I run the YouTube channel RWD Gaming. We do a lot of live plays playing D&D. We just played session 4 of our Waterdeep reskin on Sunday, and it went fantastic. Would certainly like to hear from anybody that checks it out. And you can find me next week on Tuesday with Jeremy here, playtesting some human variations for the standard human in D&D 5e that I have come up with for a setting that we're test playing. So come check that out. Thanks for having me. It was certainly a blast.
Delightful. Yeah, it's really great to finally meet Ezel, and I'm really excited to see how her sneaky self gets along in the night black streets of Duskfall. So this is really good. Finally, we have Derek.
I'm Derek. I have no YouTube channel, so I'm sorry. But I am a part of the Mythic Gazetteer. As always, it's fun to be a part of this group and playing these interesting characters. And it was really great to see our new character, Ezel, and see what she can do. So I'm excited to see what's going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to have you back, as always, Derek. Clank is an endless source of antics and entertainment. Once again, I'm Eli Kurtz. I'm your host and game master. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think about it. Let us know if you have any ideas about where you think the story could go to be super exciting. And in the meantime, we'll talk to you all later. But yeah, next time we should be coming out with another episode in like 2 weeks. So get excited. We're back at it. Farewell, everyone.